So, call the meeting to order. Before we start the meeting, we have a swearing in to do. Councillor Carlsberg, something to read, I believe, or he, or potential councillor Carlsberg, read it. Okay.
Morning, everyone. I, George Clauser, having been appointed to the office of Councillor Ward 3 in the Township of Southwest Oxford, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, and I make this solemn promise and declaration consciously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Thank you. Now, do you have a speech you wanted to make?
Not exactly, but I look forward to serving in role, and I look forward to being part of this council to its duration, and pleased to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster now. So first of all, on behalf of council, welcome, council. Remember you did swear an oath of office and expect to live up to it. The next part is I would encourage you to take full give full advantage of the staff they have, that they're very knowledgeable, they're very committed to our community, and they don't beat you wrong very often. So we have great staff, and I'm very pleased with that. Now that we've been sworn in, it's time for you to get sworn out. And that's the next step that probably nobody told you about. But anyways, I hope you enjoy it. You're here for at least 6 months. Seems to be a minimum sentence. So anyways, having said that, we need a motion to accept the agenda. We move by Booker, second by Way. Any additions to the agenda? Doing nothing under closed session. Is there a couple other items for information? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor? Opposed? That's good. Any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Minutes of the preceding meeting, June 16th, moved by Gibbon, seconded by Becker. Any errors or wishing to note the minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's good. Business rising from minutes, PL 22, anything you want to raise, there? Any questions on that? I have a motion to receive, moved by Gillis, second by Way. Result, Council received the report CL 22-2026, business rising from minutes of June 16th, 2026, information. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's good. First delegation this morning is Christine Scrivener. Christine, come on to the table and bunch of good news. This is the audited financial statements for 2025. We have them in front of us, I think. I'm not sure whether they're showing it. Okay, go ahead, Christine, whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. As I've said, I'm Christine Springer and I'm the auditor for the township, and conducted the audit independently as per our auditor's report, which is dated as of today's date, which is hopefully those charged with governance under Canadian auditing standards, who would be this council, have approved them. We will then file on your behalf with your treasurer's help, the FIR that's due to the province, and it's required by the county within the next week, so we'll get that done. It is what's called a clean auditor's opinion, meaning that we did not find anything materially incorrect. We audit through sampling processes through your revenues, your expenses and your payroll, and having found nothing there, then that's how we issue this clean, what we call clean audit opinion. So I'll just go through the numbers. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me the questions, and hopefully between myself and the treasurer, we will be able to answer those questions. So the first statement is the consolidated statement of financial position. So this would be your balance sheet, and so I just highlight some of the major changes or things that I look at as an auditor. Overall, so the net financial assets, which is about 3/4 of the way down the page, you'll see last year we were just short of 8 million, this year we're just short of 9 million. And so that's an increase obviously of about $1 million, which that's what you would have in the bank at the end of the day. Everyone paid you what you paid off your debt, which obviously doesn't happen at any one point in time, but it just gives you an information as to where you are financially and where your cash flow position is. The main increase there is on the drains receivable, and those are being addressed. So drains receivable just means that there are drains in progress that have not yet been billed out, and that is being attempted to in 2026 by your staff. The other thing I look at is everything below that line being your non-financial assets, which would be everything you need to have in place, being your roads, recreation facilities, things like that. That you're investing in those assets, at least equal to what's called amortization. Your amortization for the year is approximately 1.5 million. And so, and you can see that overall increase between tangible capital assets and work in progress. The increase there, if you take off the 1.5 million, you actually increased your assets by about 3.5 million. So a significant amount of investment in capital assets, land, some road work, and some equipment, or not equipment, vehicles were purchased in the year, so those are the main increases. And having said that, then I look up at net long-term liability, so that's the debt that you've incurred in the year, and you can see there that there's no new debt in 2025. And so we've reinvested in a significant amount of capital assets. We haven't incurred any debt. And when we get to the reserves and reserve funds, we'll see that we've also increased our reserve balance, which is really your savings account. So all those good indicators of where you are financially. Any questions on that statement at all?
Okay.
Okay. On to the next week. I'm sorry.
We had costs related to the installation of fiber optics. Internet,
Yes,
are they in here?
so we're going to talk about that in the next statement. That's exactly. Okay, so now we're on this consolidated statement of operation accumulated surplus. So you have the three columns. You have the budget as approved by council for the 2025, and this is the operating budget only because we're showing operations here. Compared to the actual for 2025 and then the actual for 2024. So there's just some comparatives there, and I'm going to go through some of those, and that will come up in one of the lines here. So under revenue, the main increases there were taxation revenues, so that you'll see an increase there, and that's really because we did not have as many write-offs as we thought we would have in the year. So we've increased our taxation revenue there. Our user charges increase, and that comes from quite a few different things. It's not really one thing, but it's mainly pots and fire revenues increase, cemetery fees increase for the cemetery board. And then we got a WSIB rebate, which is common across the province. They had a surplus, and so they're repaying, or they're giving back the WSIB surplus to you, your portion of it. And under government grants, our boundary, mainly there is our boundary roads, the annexation monies that we get from Woodstock and Ingersoll were higher than what we budgeted, and again, that's based on their assessments. Coming down to total revenues, 11.5 million, again, increase there of about $1 million, and those various things that I just mentioned made up that difference. Under expenditures, you'll see you budgeted $9 million. And we spent 9.8 million. That does not mean council overspent. The budget does not include amortization, which was 1.5 million. And then the other difference, if you look at that planning and development, and this is really where we talk about that executive project, we budgeted 1.2 million to spend, and we only spent 800, and then we remaining amount. So we we fund that through taking it out of reserves. We only took out of reserves what was spent in the year, also billing the county for their portion of it. And then we'll continue to finish that project in 2026. And so that's where you'll see that decrease, that question under planning and development, under expenditures. So then that line excess of revenue over expenditures before other, that's the next indicator, financial indicator I look at, that is the amount of surplus you have on your operating expenses after amortization, and we always, and that's really gets contributed to the reserves. And we want to see that in a positive, obviously, and increasing, and it has increased about $600,000, which is a great indication. And in fact, your operating surplus for the year was about $600,000. So just so you know that, and I know your treasurer is bringing a report on that in the future council meeting. Everything below that line are items that are relating to your capital projects, and so they're not operating as such. They're revenues that came in to help fund those capital projects that I've already mentioned. And that budget to actual was very consistent with what we budgeted there. Again, we don't budget for the investment increase in Earth because that's an unknown at any given time until they have their financial statements audited. Any questions on that statement at all? Maybe something specific there that I haven't covered?
See any?
Okay, I'll keep going here then. So the next statement is your cash flow statement, which shows the increases and decreases of your non-cash items on the balance sheet. I won't spend a lot of time on this because I have really indicated most of the changes of the large numbers, the amortization, that 1.5 that I keep talking about, the acquisition of tangible capital assets under investing activities, if net of the work in progress decrease, so you'll see there, that's that 3.5 million of new assets I mentioned. And then that change in working capital, majority of that is in the drain increase, which is going to be billed in this year. Under financing there, you can see that we did not issue new debt, we just paid off our existing debt. Coming down to that cash and short-term investment value at the end of the year. And then the next statement is your consolidated change in net financial assets, and again, this is just drilling down into the capital asset piece. And you can see there that budgeted for 4.6 million, we spent 4 million, the rest are projects that are in progress at the end of the year. It then gets the notes to the financial statements, and I'm not going to spend a lot. I will spend some time on note number 10, I believe. Yes, note number 10, which is really a breakdown of that surplus that we've been talking about. And so you'll see operations, that includes the, when I said 600,000 for the township portion, this surplus includes the cemetery boards as well as the park boards, are all in that $948,000 number. And then you can see the majority of the surplus is invested in tangible capital assets. But the reserves is the number that I wanted to comment on. You can see there that there's about $1 million increase. So when I talked about reinvesting and making sure your reserve balances were staying consistent, we've increased them as well. So looking at that as an indicator as well. At the back are two schedules. One breaks down the tangible capital assets by components, and then the other is a segue into the segmented report that is a segue into the FIR that's filed by functions. So the functions are determined by the province, and we then break down the revenues and expenditures by those functions as defined by the province. So that's the consolidated statement. And again, consolidation means that those park boards and cemetery boards are included in these numbers. And then we do have a trust fund statement. Do you want to?
So just before you're,
Yeah.
any questions on the audit at all? Yeah, just one is said it's clean audit and all that, but any concerns, recommendations?
No, the one thing was the drains, and the staff have already addressed that, so. And again, at this point, I also want to thank this treasurer and all of her staff. They do an excellent job, and when we're here, they don't get a lot of work done because we're constantly asking them lots of questions, so I just appreciate all of their help.
Good, so no recommendations for improvements, I mean.
No.
Good work. Okay, any other questions from council? Seeing none, then let's go on to the trust funds.
Okay, and so these are the trust funds. So as part of becoming cemetery boards, you have what's called care and maintenance funds, and so these are the care and maintenance funds. So basically, you can't touch the principal of these, you're basically using the interest earned by these funds to help with the, care and maintenance of those cemeteries, just like it sounds. And so again, this is, because it's operated by, volunteers to a certain extent with the revenue side, it is a qualified opinion, which you will see on all cemetery boards. And dated again as of today's date. Having said that, we still test the revenues and we did not find anything that we had concerns about. And so there hasn't been a significant change in them this year, so again, it depends on obviously the amount of burials that happen in any given year. Last year had more burials, and so if you look at the statement of operations, you'll see the decrease in revenue there, and then that coincides to the smaller increase in the overall fund, which sits at 521,000 versus 513 last year. And if you look at note, the final note, which is the breakdown, you'll see there the names of the cemeteries and the amount of care maintenance funds each one of those has, coming up to the total of 521,000 that you see on those financial statements.
Thanks, Christine. Any questions on trust funds? Might have a concern about the size of some of the care and maintenance funds as far as long-term viability.
Yeah, for sure. And that's common around, like review over cemeteries, for sure.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Thanks very much. We have a motion here. Right. So we need a motion to approve the audited statements moved by Pickard, seconded by Way. Any further discussion? You know, my comment would be, a pretty good thing. Then please.
I just want to say, I know there may not be all the same counselors sitting around this table next year, and so I just want to thank them for their support over the years. Especially the mayor, who you've been here since I've been the auditor, so thank you for all your support, I appreciate it.
Thank you for your perseverance. Oh, perfect. Anything you wanted to comment on, Julie? On the audited statement?
No, just thank you very much again for all of your work on this over the last several weeks, and to our finance team. It's always a lot of work, but thank you.
I do want to just comment, sorry, one other thing that I should have reminded through them. There is a note added at the end of the financial statements, note number 18, just on some possible commitment in the future, and so that had to be added this year, just not. But and again, nothing has been decided, I understand that, but it just needed to be said that there is some investigation. So.
Okay. Any comments from George? Yeah. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve the audit. Any further discussion from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Carrie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
First, public zone, public meeting for zone change poll. For the small office. Presented. Laurel is, okay. So, I just did the title of going to a public meeting. All right, we're in the public meeting. Laurel, go ahead and lead us through applications that in 42603.
Thank you, Mayor Mayberry, members of council, members of the audience and staff. I'm presenting ZN 42603. It's the Township of Southwest Oxford application for 312915 Durham Line. So this zone change application proposes to rezone the subject lands from residential type 1 zone or R1 to special institutional zone to facilitate the construction of a new 1,040 approximately square meter multi-use building for the use of the Township of Southwest Oxford Administrative Office, Public Library and Child Care Facilities. The township has requested site-specific provisions to reduce the exterior side yard from 10 meters to 7.6 meters or 32 feet to 25 feet, permit off-site parking, reduce the number of required on-site parking spaces from 86 to 22, and reduce the number of required on-site accessible parking spaces from 4 to 3. I'd like to note that all required parking, both all required parking spaces, including accessible spaces, will be provided both on the subject property and in two lots also owned by the township. One of them abuts the subject property and one of them is just across the road. So although the township is requesting a reduction in the number of required on-site parking spaces, all parking spaces are being required very close to the subject plans. The existing designation is low-density residential in the official plan. The existing zone, as I mentioned, is residential type 1, and the proposed zone is special institutional zone. So the property is approximately 3,983 square meters in area, located on the south side of Mount Elgin Road. The lands are located within Wellhead Protection Area A. As with every application, we circulated it to both the public and agencies and staff, both at the township and at the county. So the backflow prevention officer did comment that the subject land is subject to the county's backflow bylaw. The source water protection coordinator requires that completion of section 59 screening plan is required. Since this comment was made, the township did submit the form, and the form has the source water protection coordinator has provided clearance. Oxford County Public Works commented that after speaking with source water protection, the existing folding tanks, including expansions, modifications, or replacements, are permitted within the wellhead protection area. If changes to the activity on the property do not change the level of threat. So in this case, the existing folding tank is already a significant threat, would remain a threat after the construction of the proposed municipal building. However, in conversation with the township, they also note that the location of the holding tank can be altered, which does provide some flexibility. And additional comments will be provided during site plan application process. Southwestern Public Health Promoter commented that they provided recommendations received from the Ministry of Education for parking lot safety changes for childcare settings. And I understand these comments have been forwarded to the architect and to the township as well. In terms of public comments, we did not receive any questions or comments from members of the public. In terms of our analysis, this proposal would enable the township to provide a mixed-use community hub containing 3 essential services under one roof, which would provide efficiency and convenience for residents and property owners. The proposal will also provide the township with operational efficiency, so there would be 3 uses sharing one building footprint, shared utilities, and shared maintenance. The subject lands are located within an area designated low-density residential according to the official plan. Staff is of the opinion that given the proposed scale of the structure and the mix of uses, and that the proposed structure is generally consistent with the provisions of the institutional zone, it's reasonable to consider this as a minor institutional use, which is permitted in the designation. So there are criteria to establish minor institutional uses in this area, and planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal is very well suited to the location. Specifically, it's limited in scale, so 2 stories, and as previously noted, it generally meets the intent of the township zoning bylaw. So in terms of lot area, lot coverage, frontage, and front yard setback. Specifically, the proposed plan meets provisions of the I zone. And staff are of the opinion that the proposed development is compatible in terms of form and scale with surrounding land uses. So the building will be set back from Mount Elgin Road. It's buffered to the east by the grading water treatment facility, buffered from residential development to the west and south by additional township owned lands to be used for the offsite parking. So those are the other 2 lots that I was mentioning. Excuse me, Jenny, I'm not sure if we can scroll down to one of the plates. Thank you. So on that plate, you can see that the red is the subject lands, and the lot to the south that's outlined is the abutting parking lot, and then the lot to the west is the other township owned parking lot. So all parking will be provided on all 3 lots. So based on initial feedback from Township Chief Building Official and Township Work Superintendent and Oxford County Public Works staff, the proposal is also located on roads that are capable of accommodating the access and nature of anticipated vehicular traffic generated by each use, and no concerns regarding traffic or access were identified. Planning staff are of the opinion that in this case, the proposed off-site parking is very reasonable, meets the intent of the bylaw. As I mentioned, all parking spaces will be provided on those lots. Planning staff are also of the opinion that the requirements for municipal sewage services for the uses can be accommodated in consultation with the county source water protection coordinator. As I mentioned, county public works staff commented that existing holding tanks are permitted within the wellhead protection area. They also noted that there is flexibility with respect to the location of holding tanks, and I do understand that the architect and the township are working on determining that. And the final size and location will be determined in consultation with the source water protection coordinator and county public works staff and the work superintendent. The criteria for the daycare facilities are set out in the official plan in section 6.5.2.2. These criteria will be assessed and addressed during the site plan process. So items including but not limited to lighting, signage, drainage, buffering, access, parking, and fencing will be addressed through site plan approval process, specifically related to the daycare component of this. So the township has requested a reduction to the exterior side yard from 10 meters or 32.8 feet to 7.6 meters or 25 feet. Planning staff are of the opinion that this is a very minor reduction that will not negatively impact the use of the surrounding uses. And there will be still remain sufficient side yard width to allow for servicing, maintenance, and open space and landscaping between the building and the public sidewalk on Elgin Drive. So staff are satisfied that the proposed rezoning to special institutional zone is sufficiently compatible with the existing land uses in the area and future residential to the south of the subject lands. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement in that it will support the development of Mount Elgin as a complete community, provide opportunities for employment and the co-location of public services, which is considered efficient, effective for the community and promotes cost effectiveness and facilitates servicing integration. Staff are recommending approval of the zone change application. A copy of the draft amending bylaw is attached for council's consideration. I'm very happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Any questions from council on this? Council Berry.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. The two lots used for parking, are they already rezoned? See, this on the map here, so does that suggest they're already zoned?
Through you, Mayor Mayberry, thank you for the question. Yes, they were rezoned earlier this year to ensure that they could accommodate parking as a use, a permitted use.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll get back to this one and another public meeting. So we can go right on to the next one. Oh, anyone in the public want to speak in favor or opposed to this application? Seeing none, okay. Next one, going to the public meeting for Valley Homes. I know, I was gonna do all three of them. You want to do the recommendation, okay, the clerk wants the recommendation now. So, the recommendation is to approve, mover and seconder. Moved by, give my second by way, any discussion? All those in favor? Or that's carried. Okay, let's move on to the next one, this is Norfolk Valley Homes. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Mayberry, members of council. The reason for this zone change application is to reduce the minimum lot area for all interior lots from 450 square meters or 4844 square feet to 435 square meters or 4682 square feet. This is a difference of 15 square meters or 161.5 square feet or 3.33% reduction. So this will bring the approved engineering drawings for these lots into compliance with the zoning bylaw, facilitating the development of single detached dwellings in this subdivision. Jenny, can I ask you to scroll down to the map? Thank you. So that plate there illustrates the lots, the area, the subject lands that this would apply to, and we're talking about only the interior lots and not the corner lots. The existing designation is low density residential. The existing zone is special type 1 residential zone, R116. And the application is proposing to amend this zone to reduce the lot area for the interior lots. Property is located south of Mount Elgin Road between Brady Drive and the CN Rail line and part of the Mount Elgin subdivision. In terms of staff comments, the township work superintendent commented that a reduced lot area may result in reduced opportunity to provide parking spaces in addition to what is required by the township zoning bylaw, which is 2 spaces, but does not have any concerns with this proposal. It was more of a, just be aware that this may reduce opportunity for additional parking. In terms of public comments, there were no comments received or no questions received from the public. In terms of our analysis, we looked at the provincial planning statement. The proposal is consistent with section 2.2 housing in that it will provide for a range and mix of housing to meet the current needs of future residential occupants. Section 2.3.1 also sets out that settlement areas are the focus of growth and development, and this is in the settlement area of Mount Elgin. In the official plan, this is consistent with the official plan. It speaks to the objective for rural settlement residential designations and supports the provision of a supply of residents on a demand for a range of new types of dwellings. As I mentioned, the lands are currently zoned R116, which does include several special provisions. As I mentioned, the proposed zoning would add a special provision to permit a minimum lot area of 435 square meters for interior lots only. Staff compared minimum lot areas for interior lots for single detached dwellings in other municipalities. So the proposed minimum of 435 square meters does exceed minimum lot sizes permitted in the R2 zones in Tillsonburg, Ingersoll, and Woodstock. So based on this comparison and the fact that township staff do not have any objections, planning staff are of the opinion that the reduced lot size on the subject lands is reasonable and consistent with provisions for single detached dwellings elsewhere in the county. The proposal will facilitate the previously approved lot fabric for the subject lands. The reduced lot areas are not anticipated to result in any drainage issues. The lots are large enough to provide for sufficient setbacks, maintain compatibility with surrounding land uses, and provide adequate space for outdoor amenity areas and maintenance of structures. I'd like to note that the lot frontage and front yard setbacks will not change as part of this application, and planning and township staff are satisfied that there is sufficient space to provide off-street parking, which requires, as I mentioned, a minimum of 2 parking spaces for the development of single detached dwellings. Overall, the proposal is consistent. Planning statement meets the intent and purpose of the official plan with respect to residential development and can be supported from a planning perspective. I attached a copy of the draft zoning bylaw amendment for your consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Any questions from council? I have one, and just to be clear, the subject lands we're talking about are the 3 different areas, the internal, that we call the island, and then the east and west, the 3 on the east, 5 on the left, they're all included in this bylaw, or in this zone.
3 where we were, yes, those are the subject lands. It's only the interior lot. So what this zoning amendment will do is carry forward the special provisions from the R116 zone and add a special provision that says interior lots can have a minimum lot area of 435 square meters.
So when you say interior, are you talking about interior as in not corner lot?
Correct, not corner lots. There is a special provision already for corner lots, which permits a minimum lot area of 450 square meters.
Okay, and then the lots, the 5 lots to the west and the 3 lots to the east, are they included in this reduction to the zone change?
3 Mary, yes, they are. So
Okay.
it's, yes.
That's, I just wanted to clear, so, okay, any other questions from council? Anyone in the public want to speak in favor or oppose? None. We're ready then for a motion. The recommendation is to approve, moved by Becker, second by Goodham. Any discussion? All those in favor? Or that's great. Okay, the next public meeting with William Pranger. Pranger? Yep. Okay, come on up to the table. See the process, planner goes through the report, council has an opportunity to ask any questions, then you'll have an opportunity to make any comments you want on the report. And then open it up to the public, anyone who wants to speak in favor or opposed, and then council will make a decision. Go ahead, please, go.
Thank you, Mayor Mayberry, members of council and members of the audience. The reason for this zone change application is to amend the existing special provisions of the existing site-specific special general agricultural zone, 1831, to increase the maximum gross floor area for a commercial print shop from 325 square meters to 418 square meters to recognize the actual size of the commercial print shop. No new development is proposed as part of this application. For council's information, there was a previous zone change application approved by council in 2020 to permit the commercial print shop to a maximum of 325 square meters. The property is approximately 14.39 hectares in size, or 35.57 acres, located on the north side of Robinson Road between Wallace Line and 5 Point Road. There were no comments received from staff or the public when the application was circulated, no comments or questions. In terms of planning's analysis, the proposal is generally consistent with the direction of the provincial planning statement with respect to development of previously approved non-agricultural uses on prime agricultural land. So a commercial print shop was determined to be a non-agricultural use. When council approved the commercial print shop, it is an approved use, so the zone change to recognize the actual size of the commercial print shop will not result in any additional conflict with surrounding agricultural operations and residential uses. The official plan also contains policies and direction with respect to minor changes to non-agricultural uses in the agricultural reserve. So minor changes or expansions to non-agricultural uses that were recognized by zoning as of May 25th, 2022 are permitted, subject to satisfying development criteria, including servicing, transportation, access, drainage, compatibility, and policies. So in reviewing the application, staff are of the opinion that the structure containing the print shopping garage is appropriately designed, separated from nearby residential and other sensitive land uses, and the proposal will not result in adverse impact to factors including but not limited to noise, odor, dust, and vibration. The existing structure containing the print shop is not being enlarged or modified. Therefore, the proposal will not result in negative impacts to surrounding agricultural operations. It will maintain the current degree of compatibility with surrounding uses. So the subject lands have been zoned A231 since 2022. The applicant 2020, the applicant indicated that the size of the commercial print shop is 68 meters squared, or 25% larger than what was approved in 2020, and they are looking to correct this issue. Overall, planning staff are satisfied that the proposed amendment represents a relatively minor change to an approved use located on an existing parcel already zoned for a commercial print shop. Planning staff are recommending approval of the zone change as the proposal is consistent with PPS and meets the intent and purpose of the official plan. I've attached a copy of the draft amendment bylaw for council's consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Any questions from council? Councilor Becker?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just wondered, what happened in 2020 that we just approved 3,500 square feet, not 4,500? Did we get it wrong? Was the application wrong? How did we get to where we are today?
That was on me. I just mismeasured the square footage of the original application.
Okay, any other questions for all? Okay, so just to be clear, to the councilor Becker, the application that was approved in 2020 was for 3,500 square feet. Not 4,500. Okay, so council actually approved a print shop that, if I remember correctly, was actually in operation. And legally or not, that doesn't matter now, council approved it. And so the request today is not whether we're approving a print shop, it's whether we're willing to expand it from 3,500, which technically it's limited to now using the full building and at 4,500. That's That's the question in front of us. Okay, any other questions from Laura for Laura? Okay, the Brenner, it's up to you, any comments you want to make?
No, other than, sorry it came to this, didn't expect to be back here again on the same issue, but, yeah, I just felt the need to correct that discrepancy. And thought, I wanted to get it in line with conform with what's allowed.
You're satisfied with the recommendation of the report to approve?
Yep.
Any other comments on it? Just give me a chance before I have to public.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, good. Anyone in the public wants to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak opposed? There's no one's online. Then we'll move right back to comments and questions from council. Seeing them? I guess my concern about this one, and I would actually agree with the recommendation. My concern was, the Councilor Pickett's comment earlier about why did we approve 3,500 instead of 4,500 originally? And was that some kind of compromise between, zero and the full building, right? So, but, in fairness, there wasn't any problems that, I've heard from staff with the operation. Seems to be running fine, not creating any problems. It is always a slippery slope when you start doing approving things in farmland that don't necessarily need to be there, but hopefully are now. Any other comments? Councilor Zerba.
I just appreciate Mr. Brenner coming forward, trying to bring the property into full compliance, and I would move to approve.
We'll move to approve. You have a second by Gillis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, that's great. Okay, so in this case, is there an appeal process? Because I'm getting confused. Okay. So just for the township and the owner to appeal a decision. This has nothing to do with very much, that's all that is. Okay, so for the minister, yes. We will probably pass the bylaw today. I'm assuming well, then in 20 days after it's mailed out, which will probably be tomorrow or Thursday, it takes effect. If no one's appealed, you can appeal, the township can appeal, or the minister can do it. I'm guessing you're not going to, I guess we're not going to, so, don't tick off the minister. Okay, thanks very much, and, wish you good luck with it. So.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we're almost right at 9:30. Paul Michaels and Don Forrest, come on up to the table. Tell us where we're at. Now let you go. So Paul Michaels is the Director of Community Planning. And Don Ford is Manager of Water and Wastewater. So.
Okay, thank you. The report before council today is what we hope to be what we intend to be the first of an ongoing annual reporting to the township on planning services. This report covers planning services through to the end of 2025 and also identifies initiatives that we're undertaking in 2026. As you know, the township's directly supported by a full-time professional planner, which is Laurel, and then also directly by Eric Gilbert, our manager of development on the more complex files. He also reviews all reports before they go to township council and assists in providing strategic advice. But beyond that, the entire sort of planning team at the county also provides support as required. So that includes myself as director. We have April Nix, our manager of planning policy, and a policy team, as well as GIS analysts and administrative staff. So together that team is able to provide you with a very high level of both professional expertise and technical expertise. So much more similar to what like a much larger municipality would have access to. So our structure allows for that to happen. In terms of specifics on development review over the past year, at the end of 2025, community planning staff processed 51 development applications for Southwest Oxford. One of those a draft plan of subdivision, 14 consents to sever, one official plan amendment, 15 zoning bylaw amendments, 16 minor variant. Sweat. Sorry. Oh, that's fine. And for study plan. So these represented 12% of total county applications, but I would say that for the most part, the applications in the township were the less complex, sort of more simple to evaluate process applications compared to some of what we deal with. Over that time, the community planning office also provided a range of other development related planning services. So those include things like being involved in pre-consultations on proposed development with township, ongoing advice and feedback on inquiries and development related matters. We coordinated a number of peer reviews, so those are for things like environmental impact studies and geotechnical studies. So making sure that where we don't have in-house expertise, to coordinate the peer review consultants that are required to provide that for us. We also assisted in developing an updated servicing allocation policy. So worked with Public Works on that to ensure that we were able to allocate servicing capacity, sort of equitably to a number of developments to make sure we're not prematurely constructing services, but all development that is moving forward can continue to move forward in a phased manner. So that's kind of addressed through that allocation policy. So that was a major undertaking in 2025, and I think it's been very effective to date. We also worked with township staff on a number of internal improvements to your planning related processes and communication materials, including communication materials on sort of process and requirements for additional residential units. And then undertook zoning bylaw consolidation updates. Table 1 in the report just does provide an overview of the development applications in the township over the last 5 years. So 2025 was it was heaviest year in a while at 51 applications, which was up from 45 in 2024 and 30, in 2024 and 34 in 2023. But the increase was largely due to an increase in consent applications and minor variance applications. And looking at 2026, it looks like for the first part of the year, you're down slightly from your 2025 volumes. We'll see how that plays out for the rest of the year. 4 new residential lots were created and approved in 2025, and 11 building permits were issued for new dwellings. So again, that is down from some of the volumes in previous years, and we're not sure how that'll trend over the next year or two. Because your 3-year average is actually 23 units per year, so 11 is a significant decrease from that. Currently on the books, you have 225 approved lots and units in the township as of the end of 2025. So to compare that to provincial planning statement requirements, provincial requirements, you are required to have a 3-year minimum supply of fully serviced lots to accommodate growth, and that equates to roughly a 10-year supply based on your current building permit volume. So you're in good shape that way. And then in terms of the 20 to 30 year land supply requirements, as you're aware, we will be embarking on a secondary plan for Mount Elgin to make sure that those longer term growth need requirements can be addressed within the village of Mount Elgin. But you do have a significant supply on hand already to address immediate growth. Our office also undertook a number of planning related policy projects to support both the county and the township with strategic advice on legislative and policy changes that have been kind of an ongoing set of releases from the province, and providing advice in that regard. So a number of planning related legislative changes and bills with various subcomponents, and you would have seen various memos and updates throughout 2025 and this year as well on aspects of those, and that's something we will be monitoring on an ongoing basis. So we're lucky to have a team that's able to assess all those changes as they come forward, and also because we have a full team, we can actually influence provincial policy, whereas many are just forced to kind of react to the changes as opposed to have potential influence over them. So that's one of the advantages of having a cross section of expertise and experienced staff within the office. We also undertook a consultation on updates to Chapter 10 fish plan policy, so that was time improving implementation measures and processes for various planning act applications, and you will see coming forward that will have additional discussions on how to further streamline some of the processes within the township, whether that's through increased delegation of staff or use of new tools like community planning permitting systems or other measures that may help to expedite planning approvals. So going forward into 2026, I touched on a couple of items already, but we'll be initiating the secondary plan for the village of Mount Elgin, which I understand from discussions yesterday will happen. The RFP file will be released this week, and we're allowing a 4-week submission period. Yeah. For submissions on that, so that'll be ongoing throughout the remainder of 2026 and certainly into 2027. Once that study is kind of worded. We will be completing comprehensive agricultural zoning updates. So you probably had some time ago now a discussion about the changes to our agricultural policies in the OP. So these agricultural zoning updates would be to implement changes that were incorporated into the official plan. So I think staff level discussions will be happening on that with the township shortly, and it'll be coming to council later on this year. We will also be undertaking planning application fees review and service level reviews. So one of the items I believe was raised by Mayor Mayberry at County Council to take a look at the fees for this upcoming budget year. So I will be working on a report for the August meeting for County Council, and then have follow-up discussions with yourselves on potential changes to zoning, minor variance, so site plan fees, so local applications. And then any other projects that are identified by either council or staff for the remainder of the year, we'll also be undertaking. From the policy side, we've undertaken visioning exercises for the new official plan, which will be a multi-year project. So if you may have attended one or more of the sessions on that, there was one in Elgin. They were very well attended. We had great feedback, and I think on the online questionnaire that we released for that is probably one of the best responded to online questionnaires that we've undertaken with the county. So we're very happy with the feedback and responses, and staff are currently in the process of kind of collecting all those responses, seeing what we heard back from the community in terms of their vision. So this report, and the reason Don's with me here today, also includes an update from Public Works on servicing capacity in both Beachville and Mount Elgin. So Beachville being your water only community. Just to touch on a few points, and Don can address the tough questions if there's any servicing capacity, but it's a one well system that requires the water to be trucked in if the wells are offline. The current utilization of the system with current and committed capacity is roughly 90%. With all draft approved and submitted applications, so kind of everything you know about in terms of proposed development there, so we bring that capacity to 115%, so it would exceed the current capacity. But there are plans for an additional well to provide redundancy and increased capacity for that system. And it's planned for completion of the EA in 2027, construction 2028, 2029, coming online in 2031. And that would increase the available capacity to allow for approximately 450 additional units. So more than sufficient to accommodate the growth that would be have potential within the current boundary of Beachville for sure, positive densification. In terms of Mount Elgin, that's your fully serviced growth center, so both municipal water and wastewater services. With respect to the water system, the existing and committed capacity there is approximately 57% of the current system. And again, if you include all draft approved and submitted circulated proposals, so things we know about, there will only be approximately 45 units of capacity remaining. But again, an optimization project is being undertaken for that to increase capacity. So the intent is that the capacity of the water system would be similar to what we'd be expanding your water, at least wastewater system to. In terms of the wastewater system, the current plant capacity is approximately 74%, and that, again, that's existing developments already using the system plus what we've committed to proposed developments. If you include those developments that are just submitted circulated, so they don't have any specific approval status, so we know about them. If that would take the capacity of the current system to 123%, so again, exceeding your current capacity. But with the proposed construction of phases 3 and 4 of that system, which are currently identified for 2026, 2027 to be their whole 2028. The utilization would be down 62%. So that would provide both sufficient capacity for your existing development, what we have as approved development, as well as an additional 350 units of capacity. So just to kind of put that into context, it would be sufficient capacity to accommodate your forecasted 30-year growth for the village. So 500 additional units are forecasted growth within the village, and the current expansion plans would cover that growth. So with that, both myself and Don are here to address any questions the council may have about the report from the planning side or the servicing practice.
Good, thanks, Paul. Don, did you want to make any comments before we get to the questions?
Well, I appreciate everything the Paul spoke to about my projects. Those are very accurate and we're happy to answer questions. Sure.
Okay, so questions from council on planning matters and potential capacities. It's quiet. Council Gills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Ford, are the timelines for the capacity on par for what we're expecting in the future? Like, as far as you know, everything's expected to move along this proper timeline?
Through the mayor to council, a good question. We have had some challenges in Mount Elgin wastewater with the ministry approval. However, I think the last hurdle is for our consultant to recalculate the mounting calculations for them. That should be the last sort of issue before the permit will be issued. So we're waiting for that permit before we go to bids and tenders and start construction. So that has been a lengthy process with the administration like that. Other than that, should be on the schedule. It's that's completed. So once we get that in hand, we'll move forward.
Any other questions? Council Gills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm keenly interested to see the results of the secondary plan for Mount Elgin. Is that going to address things like traffic flow as well?
Yeah, the terms of reference for that project certainly include a review of traffic and security issues around Highway 19. You know, the provincial concerns and access concerns for Highway 19. So yes.
Any other questions? We'll get a couple. First one, when we put a second well in Beachville, which I think is necessary, because for the subdivision plan that's coming to the township, I expect in the next month or two, we'll add another 20-some houses. And then there's some development plan that could potentially add 30 or 40 more houses. So, anyway, the question I had was, if we have excess capacity with the second well, will there be potential to extend water to current residents there? Not everybody in these folks on the water system there. Okay.
No. Okay, thank you. To mayor and council, it's an excellent question. The second well will free up considerable capacity, so there's no longer have be limited with 100 cubic meters anymore. So if there's a desire to hook up existing users, like we would comment with certain, because this is probably more than the beginning of the subdivision she spoke of. So, but in terms of that, I guess I would rely on planning for these directions and how the need for how to proceed to allocate capacity.
Well, one of the challenges we have there is that one of the the next potential subdivision coming forward of 20 whatever it is, 2 or 3 houses, I can't remember. It's relatively close. The next one is a little bit further away, the development plan in the Angleville subdivision, which is about I think there's 40 or 50 houses there. The next subdivision, the reason I'm asking, the next potential subdivision or area for development would be on the east side of East Hill, where there's a chunk of land there that there's interest in. And if you had water, then the size of the lots would be smaller and potentially smaller And, nothing about it. I just wanted to be sure that if we're planning down the road, should we be planning that far, or would we be looking at any water from, Durham to Woodstock?
To the mayor and council, I currently have nothing in the plan to Woodstock for anything. This well in Beachville would be the service of Beachville. In terms of subdivision development, that's done by the local policy, that development that would have to put in pipes up to 250 dollars. We kind of need them oversized, in which case we think they're oversized and we have to service other people along the way. So if the pipe goes by other individuals, well, that could be a bill out to them if they want to connect. So there's a lot of things to consider, but that will all be processed in planning and development review and a comment on that process. So that's how I see that working. I don't see a connection with stuff.
Okay. So I think this is, in fairness, quite hypothetical. But it's, I'm just sort of trying to think of, if you have enough capacity, you know, how would you utilize it the most efficient way? And, I would suggest East Hill one is a bit of a stretch. Because Gillis maybe, but, anyway, okay, in my opinion, just so we understand, water capacity right now, we've got, approximately 5 million houses there on the water system now. Okay. We've approved phase 6 of the written application for another 225 or 50 houses. So beyond that, the 2 wells that are there now have a capacity for approximately how many houses? Like 2,000 houses?
Well, and I have it listed here, it was mentioned by Paul. I think it was about the capacity on the water side. That when you consider everything, that means the draft approved, the submitted, circulated, everything that's known. We're at 93%, so we have 45 additional units past that. Currently. There's an optimization study, as Paul mentioned, to look at getting more yield out of that well with the filters, because the filters are the ones that are challenging staff. I feel full benefit of that at this point. So that would be everything. So that would be we've got down here it's committed 267, 187 draft approved, 36 and then circulated. That includes everything. And there's 45 additional.
So 45 additional will be taken in, I'm gonna call it Lakeland property. That would use up 45. I'm wondering about capacity to go to behind the community center, which is future development as well. So no water for that.
Well, the optimization study too, Mary.
So that would be, we depended on the optimization.
I'm planning on that. If that optimization study, which should be concluded by Q2 next year, I'm hoping we mirror the amount of capacity with the wastewater system. We'll have 350 units approximately addition. If that doesn't happen, we'll have to find development well. There's got to be something done within I assume that. Yeah, the water, the issue around Eldridge is one of the wastewater side, there's a, once phase 4 is built, the ministry wouldn't support that type of system going beyond that, so then it's a very large cost to turn, which would be a pump station all the way to either or something like that. On the well side, I would be developing a well if these filters can't be brought up to meet the need.
Okay, I just, more for future council understanding what the potential is, and so, okay, thanks very much, appreciate that. Any other questions or comments, Councilor Pickard?
Yeah, well, we got you here, and you're both at planning, and you mentioned the word some vision and what you're doing. I just wondered, the question we get asked a lot, or at least I get asked a lot, is about sewers for Beachville and Schweberg, close to St. Louis. Is there any plans at the county level, even long term, to look at that?
I currently have no plans to look at the capital plan. About water and resource master plan, which sort of go over so many years to consider. Have any plan in there for cities to Sweeper or different issues?
Go ahead, yeah, through here. And what I might add to that is currently based on, most recently adopted forecasts. Because, both Beachville as it is with water only servicing and that, the full services on the planned upgrades. That they are able to accommodate all of your forecasted growth, so there's currently no specific growth related need. To provide full servicing, to Beachville, but if that was something to be undertaken in the future, then, we could go through the push an exercise, just recognize the change in that category, the legislature would change the densities and other things that we there, for instance.
So, Councilor Pickers, comment, the county council did approve the master water plan a year ago, close to a year ago now.
2024.
2 years ago, okay, kind of, you know, and there isn't, I think there's considerable discussion that needs to happen. Probably not with this council, but with the next council, as you look forward for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Where would you actually put the growth? Knowing that Mount has a capacity of, let's say, 1,000 homes. If you grow anywhere in the street, you're growing on farmland, anywhere in Beachville, you're now either, well, gonna be very limited. Where you can go to not farmland. And so I think that kind of discussion needs to precede what you're gonna service. So we're gonna service Brownsville. So I would say, where are you gonna, if you're gonna have as a growth center, where are you gonna go in Brownsville or around using a farmland? And I think as much as everybody wants to grow, or not everybody, but a lot of people want to grow, I tend to be in a different camp that says, I may be happy just as size I am. And without interfering in farmland. And I think we have to be careful even in that, is I'm not suggesting absolute zero growth, but I do think we want to think about what's the most efficient and most optimal growth we could have for any community. And shouldn't be a small rural villages. Do we want to spend, simple example, $10 million to run a bike thing or so that we can have another 200 to 500? That, I think that's beyond this council's frame thinking. Probably at the moment, staff is probably thinking that way. But I think that's something that the council should wrestle with. Where do we want to see the next set of growth? We have currently, and I think Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, I think currently we're in a 25 to 30 year, we're okay. We've got all the potential growth that theoretically is gonna happen. So in the next few years, you're gonna have to start thinking of another 25 or 30 years. And that'll be the next council or the council after that, probably. Any other questions for Paul or Don? Well, done. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Appreciate it. And kind of give everybody kind of a high level view of what's happening. So. Yeah, so the recommendation that we received the reported information. We have a mover and seconder, moved by Way, second by Yvonne. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, that's carried. Okay, 940 exemption request for a noise bylaw. I guess we're almost done. We're on Ellen Johnson. Guess this is your opinion.
To the regular council, nothing significant to add. Council has given these requests before. There is a board wedding taking place Saturday, August 8th, and the noise bylaw exempts the emission of certain noise from a loudspeaker. So the recommendation is always to bring a bylaw exemption request forward. This was circulated to staff and other departments, and there were no concerns raised for this request. So the recommendation is to approve the request.
Okay. Any discussion, Councilor Wood?
Yeah, this request is from my sister and brother-in-law. Like, we're talking to them last night, had some things come up and they couldn't be here today, so. There'll be no parking on the roads. We've converted their little
beef pasture in the lawn, so there'll be no road parking and, the music will start at 3, but it's just while people are parking their cars, it'll be very light, just to. And then Ron and Alan said it'll be over at midnight, so if they say that, I'm pretty sure they'll stick to their guns.
Just
I
like
believe there is a tent going up. So, and maybe we'll talk to them about that.
Yeah, sure. Just as an added note, it's my understanding that they spoke to all the neighbors.
Yep, they've spoken to everyone in the area,
Sure,
so.
no concern tonight, I'm sure from anybody. Even since right in their report, so.
Any discussion? Councillor Becker.
I think it's a benefit that Councillor Way will be there to monitor the safety.
I didn't say I had an invite.
You don't know, that was very well done. Any other further discussion? Nothing, none, do we have a motion? Moved by Becker, second by Barker. Result to approve. Result of Council Start with the report CO 23-2026, made by the Convention received Nolan and Ron Johnson as the commissioner for council operation exemption. The section 2.3 of the township's noise bylaw reporting on 2021 for a wedding scheduled to take place on Saturday, August 8, 2026 from 3 to 12 p.m. located at 344-254 Evans Road, Riverview. Council provide direction to staff and notify enforcement staff that it would be for the noise bylaw exemption approved by council. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those, that's carried. Next one is the bylaw request. I just thought of something, we never want to public meeting. So I could figure out the public. And a few minutes ago. Okay, we're now at the CO 24-2026 bylaw exemption request for animal parent control for racing pigeons at 42 Peggy Ave. And then go ahead.
To the Mayor and Council, this request came forward as a result of a bylaw enforcement complaint received about the number of pigeons currently in the rear yard of the residence. An order was placed on the property to remove the pigeons by the bylaw enforcement officer, with the understanding that the individual had the opportunity to submit a bylaw exemption to council. So as you'll see in the report, the request is only to have to maintain and keep the pigeons until October 31st, when the individuals plan on getting rid of the pigeons. Anyway, they're no longer planning to raise them. Staff recommendation based on the bylaw is to deny the request based on the provisions as laid out in the bylaw. But should council consider a short-term approval, the recommendation would be to just permit until the end of October of this year.
Okay, so, applicant's not here, was and not. So, any discussion? Any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Glasgow.
So we plan to get rid of them by October 31st. What prevents them from doing it sooner? Yes.
Through the Mayor and Councilor, there's nothing preventing them from getting rid of them sooner. That would be this exemption. Should council pass the exemption to allow them to have it, this would give them the deadline about the 1st, so they can get rid of them sooner than that. But that would be their deadline to get rid of them.
Any other questions? Councilor,
Not necessarily a question, but a comment, Mr. Mayor. We had at our last hall board meeting a complaint raised by neighbors of the hall, stating that there had been some sort of pigeon association that had been making use semi-regularly of the parking lot in Mount Elgin at the hall, to the extent of using up half the parking lot without any authorization or rental being incurred. And the potential for that to interfere with revenues of the hall. I don't know if this application is related to that or not. But it is becoming more of an issue in the village in general.
any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Ben.
Through the Mayor and Councilor, I did speak to the Tilsonburg Pigeon Racing Club. And they're not aware of any events taking place in that parking lot, so I don't know if it's just individuals releasing their pigeons there or a group of private individuals that are just gathering there, but the racing club is not aware of any events taking place there. And that's what the issue.
Okay, so, any further discussion? This recommendation by staff to not grant or to deny the exemption. If, he seems to, so trusting me, so. Councilor Gillis,
Make a motion to deny.
moved to deny, seconded by Councilor Yurman. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Number, CL 25. Temporary human habitation and recreational vehicle and business and beach folk, so, Danny, go ahead, please.
To the Ready Council, this request comes forward, the individual is seeking to do a renovation of the property, which are the property or the current dwelling on site inhabitable for a certain amount of time. The individual is planning to undertake the work mainly themselves with some assistance of family. So they are requesting that they be able to habitate in their RV for the time period up until April 30th, 2027.
Any questions or comments from council? Councilor Gillis.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just make a comment. I appreciate that people come forward with this, asking for permission to do this. This property is close to the Woodstock border. I think that the standards or the rules they need to follow are pretty standard here and be achievable if they choose to do so. And I have no problem with what's suggested here. They grant this request.
Any other comments? Councilor Yurman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having lived in a house trailer myself for 3 years, I see that they're going through a winter with this setup, and I wish them well with their drainage and water facilities.
Okay. Shane, any comments from you? My biggest concern will be safety and access for emergency services, that sort of stuff, and you look at the situation.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, fire was circulated on this. We did have comments relative to exactly what you're talking about, access, fire protection, so to speak, an extinguisher. As well as we requested that they have working smoke and CO alarms as well. So the conditions, I get to the other councilor's point, I think the conditions that we put in there are achievable. And quite frankly, realistic given the circumstances.
Any other questions or comments? There was motion now. Moved by Yurman, seconded by Gillis, and the motion will be to approve. Any discussion on that? Only comment or question would be April 30th. When I say April 30th, 2027, I think that's a long ways away, but it's not. Right? And I'm just wanting to be sure that a relatively short period of time for ramifications in my world. But anyway, making sure that that's enough time. But I guess Chris can go back and ask for an extension. Any further discussion? Councilor Clausen.
Can we just be proactive and give them extra time now?
My concern about giving extra taxes, of course, if you give me extra time, I waste it, I use it.
Fair enough.
They made a request for very little bit. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Okay, let's do staff reports, building department. Go ahead, Daniel.
I don't really have a lot to add to the report. Any questions anybody has?
Any questions on lots of activity and doing very well done. Building permit. Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I get a little bit lost in some of the details of the report, Dan. Do you find that the applications that are coming forward are in general complete when you get them, or is there a lot of accessory work that has to be done by the applicants such that you end up seeing them 3 or 4 times before they get their approval, or how's that going? Like, are we moving things along efficiently?
I would say it's overall efficient. Every once in a while they're missing something, but we get back. We usually have a quick scan through as soon as something comes in, and if there's anything that they're missing, we let them know pretty quickly and get it back. pretty quick and continue with our reviews, so overall. No, it's been good, it's been good. Yeah. For most of the time, that was great down there and she, sure the applications are complete for the most part, so.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this report? Well,
Just, again, I've looked at it and good information, and the thing that came to my mind is, kind of the trend, like, year over year, is actually up or down?
It's pretty on par, I believe, for Airbnb. I mean, last year we're doing much better than last year, but I mean, overall, it's kind of an average year permit fees wise. We're not residential slow, but it's kind of kept us going through this year for building permit fees, but overall, honestly, it's pretty average, I would say.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe slightly above average, but in that, pretty average.
do we had an application or, building permit for, school.
Yes,
Is the fee for school, like comparable to a commercial venture or residential, or how do you determine the fee?
it's based on value of construction, so,
Okay.
yeah, so many dollars,
Okay.
yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Councilor Wick?
Yeah, so Daniel, a year ago, we had a large pork producer on Ebenezer Road, east of where Comfort Plaza lives, wanted build a new pork barn, but he didn't wanna build it back as far as what the Indy S.
Yes.
I've heard that he is now going to build a new barn, is that, he's changed his mind or?
It's back, yeah, it's way back from property and
Back where
it
it
needs
was.
NDS, yeah.
Okay. I just,
And he's well underway.
yeah, I just wondered if he just changed his mind and decided to put it where it was suggested that he should. Okay, thanks.
Any other, Councilor Yurko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just thinking ahead to when we potentially would start construction on the new municipal building. Is our current staff able to do all the inspections that are necessary on an institutional like construction like that?
Yep.
Like we won't have to bring anybody else in for it?
No.
Perfect.
As long as it's not I don't think it'd be a conflict of interest doing inspections on our own build, I don't know, but well, yeah, like I'm qualified to do that, institutional, so.
I would suggest that the building official might really want to do that to make sure everything is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
As we don't have any future problems, but never get that far, so. Any further discussion? On this, thank you for the report, very much. Moved by Figure, second by the other, the council township police department to report PDO 2026, June 2026, building report is information. Any further discussion? None, all those in favor? Those, okay, I'm still getting the time, should we take a 10-minute break before, we get into the building report, or the fire report? I'm. 5-minute break, all right, 5-minute break. And, it's gonna be a long, part of this, so. We're back in session, before we get to the, fire, matrix report, just noticed today that this was given to the township of Durham in 1966, which makes it 60 years old. And so I'm for another 60 years, but, presented by Bennett Stationery. I don't think we can allow that anymore. Private company presenting to the Main State Council, but I must go, anyways, okay, Jane, you're up, let's hear about, this is a result, this report's a result of us saying, okay, you give us a master plan. Now give us some kind of direction as to what are the priority items and what we're doing, so.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor to council, the report before you is for information purposes. Council directed the fire chief to develop a priority matrix and implementation strategy to provide a structural approach for the implementation of the plan's recommendations over time. The 2026 master fire plan establishes strategic roadmap for the future. Delivery of fire protection services within Southwest Oxford. The framework prioritizes initiatives based on operational risk, legislative requirements, firefighter health and safety, service delivery impacts, and financial considerations, while ensuring implementation is aligned with annual business planning, budget processes, and council strategic priorities. The priority matrix will serve as a living document and will be reviewed and updated annually, and recommendations are, when recommendations are completed and organizational priorities evolve. And I would be happy to take any questions. And to your point, Mayor, yes, it was a result of work you asked me. So.
Okay, so questions from council? While they're thinking of them, first of all, thank you very much. Jeremy, sitting there quietly. Anything in this that you wanted to comment on? You'll let James go. Okay.
I was gonna save him for the hard question.
Okay. I might start with very simple, first of all, thanks for doing this. I think it's helpful for the amount of information that came forward in the master plan to kind of sort of say, okay, what's level 1, what's level 2, what's level 3. The other thing I appreciated in reading your report was the kind of the criteria that you use to sort of determine, you know, legislative risks, legislative requirements. As I read through them, I sort of thought, yeah, that's kind of the things I would pick. And financial considerations, yeah, they're important, but they might not be quite as important to me as operational risks and you know, fire health and safety, sort of things. So I thought those, if you use those as your criteria for how to develop a priority, I couldn't expect better than that. So thanks very much for that. Comments, questions from council? Council, you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, under item 8-3, I don't even know what page 3 of your report, talks about extra sets of bunker gear. Are we talking about a spare set for each firefighter at this point, or are we looking at having some sort of universal sets that might be employed when the primary set is up for service?
Through the mayor to the councilor's question, that's a great question. And honestly, that's debated in the fire service. Do you have 2 sets or not? Quite frankly, I don't think at our risk level and our, I'm gonna say our call volume, we're quite there. But what we do is we basically buy 8 sets a year. So there's roughly 63 firefighters. So if you do that, it does allow for a few extra spare sets over that 10-year period. And that's how we manage it. We don't do the 2 years per person. I just don't think we're there yet.
No, I would just, from a cost perspective, especially, I would agree with the chief's assessment there. I don't know that that's necessarily warranted. When I think back to my days in the department as well, and how things have changed since then, there's still the cost factor that we have to be respectful of. I guess the other question I did have was a little bit further down in talking about utilizing the third bay of the Brownsville fire hall for an additional piece of apparatus. Do you find that is a reasonable for it to go, reasonable point forward for that station and for service to the township as a whole?
Through the mayor to the councilor's question, that's another great question. I think we have to do a little bit more analysis on it, but, for council's, information, we have received health and safety, concerns relative to the number of people that they can actually move to a fire because of their limited, vehicles. So, I do see that, quite frankly, as something we have to look at as a solution and standardize, vehicle deployments across all of, Southwest Oxford. So I do see that. We have maintained the spare pump, so council will remember, we had the pump in Beachville, that failed at safety. We brought a temporary one from Central Avenue. That's still in service as a backup right now. It's an older truck, but it's a good piece of apparatus that's working, that's doing that job right now.
Mr. Mayor, so the report called for potentially a fast attack rescue vehicle, smaller vehicle, like in the order of a 1.5 ton quick response truck. Back in my days in Brownsville and Council Quickers days in Brownsville, we had a rescue van that would carry all the gear and equipment for the firefighters. Do you see one option or the other as being preferable there, or?
Through the mayor to the council's question, I would say that our current deployment model is a rescue, a pump and a tanker at each station. Whether it's a mini pump, I think there's value to both, and I think that analysis has to be done, and part of the recommendation will be to do that analysis to see what that third vehicle is or what it looks like.
Any other questions? Not seeing any, my comment was, or kind of related to Councilor Bridges. Or sorry, Councilor Evans, the comment about, people getting to, calls. And, as one that's never been to a call, so I certainly want to acknowledge that. It seems to me that the Mount Elgin and Beachville get more calls in the 401, where there's probably a reason why you want to keep, a bigger reason why you want to keep private vehicles off out of the way. And therefore having people ride on larger, more visible things. In a lot of the Brownsville service area, my guess would be that we don't have that same degree of, potential danger from highway traffic. So, again, I understand people not wanting to take their own personal vehicles and all that sort of stuff. But to me, it's kind of a different situation. So, and you say you need to do some more analysis and this to figure out. The good news is there's going to be lots of competing interests for the finances. But as we need to be compliant with legislation, but we also need, more importantly, be always considering the safety and the health of our folks first. So that's, as you say, you have to do smart thinking on this and kind of make kind of evaluation. I appreciate that. We encourage you to do so. Other comments? Councilor Bridges.
I just had one, I can't pull it up right now, but I know Brownsville call volume is a lot lower than the other two stations, and you were making the comment that maybe you should transition them to the specialized rescue stuff, and that would probably give them a little bit more, a good feel that they're more a part of the department and using the specialized operations. And I thought that was a good comment. So that going forward, that maybe give them the training for the specialized rescue and stuff like that. The high angle or the water rescue. So make them feel more part of the team.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, item 12-3 Southwest Oxford Fire and Emergency Services should explore the option of sharing administrative services with neighboring municipalities. How would you see that as working in actuality?
So I think through the mayor to the council's question, I think that's exactly what we're doing now with the deputy chief. And that is a portion of it. You'll see that's in progress. So that is part of what we're doing. So the sharing of administrative services is the sharing of the leadership as well as I'm gonna say the support staff in that. The way it will work is essentially the way it's working now is you get me 2 days a week and you get the deputy 2 days a week, and then we share it with Zora Township right now in that shared service model. So that's one of the examples of that. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I'm just wondering, are you talking about administrative staff alongside of yourself and Deputy Chief Wallace, or?
Through the mayor to the council's question, I better understand now. Yeah, so currently the way it is, because our admin staff share dual roles in both municipalities, both do considerable work for the fire service, but they also do considerable support staff work, front counter work and stuff for each municipality. So the dovetailing of those, I do see some dovetailing in the process perspective as to who does what, but I definitely see them still being distinct, if that's what we're talking about.
Any other questions? Councilor Webb.
Yeah, through the mayor, chief. Do we have written agreements with water rescues with other municipalities? Like, we don't have water rescue training in our Southwest Oxford, is that correct?
You're asked through the mayor, you're correct.
So we do have an agreement, like, is Thamesford a water rescue municipality?
Yeah, through the mayor to the council's question. So through mutual aid, we can enact any of this. So we don't have that specialty rescue ourselves, but Tilsonburg does. Thamesburg does as well too. So to go back to Councilor Bugner's question about the specialized rescue, that's the idea or the intent of some of that legwork or the groundwork that's referenced in the report, is to better utilize than perhaps the smaller or the slower stations to do, say, a grain rescue, something that's a need in the community. But we perhaps do grain rescue and then we rely on Thamesburg for water and ice, or Tilsonburg for water. And it's the sharing of those resources, because although they are Brownsville's, I'm gonna say, their call volume is lower, any serious fire, we all go to. So they're still going to the actual fires that are there, and because it's a lower frequency, higher risk evolution, the training demands are higher on those types of evolutions as well too. So we do have, to your point, there are agreements for mutual aid, but what this is saying is we should actually formalize a lot of the agreements for high angle rescue, trench rescue, the other technical rescue disciplines.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To that point then, chief, do you find, because different stations seem to have their day in the sun in Southwest Oxford. We've had issues in the past with response times and the amount of personnel that can show up to calls. Are you satisfied with the staffing in the Brownsville department right now that would be able to support that kind of specialty operations?
Through the mayor to the councilor's question, again, depending on which specialties we line. Actually, when I went around, when I first got here and, surveyed staff on what they thought about certain things, and from a recruitment and retention perspective, trying to understand some of those issues and challenges around recruitment retention, to the counselors' comment about, make them feel more valued within that service. I definitely think there is enough capacity there enough for that. And I think we're at full staff. Maybe we're down 1 or 2 right now, just within the recent months, but I wouldn't have issues with the amount of staff or their commitment or dedication to something like that. In fact, I would say they embraced it.
Any other questions? So two quick things for me, getting back to potentially, raise the issue about administrative, support. And, I was thinking maybe kind of along the same line as you were, we'll be talking about clerical kind of administrative support. And I just spoke to Jeremy at the break there about encouraging him to explore all of those options. That this new venture may in fact, open up opportunities we've never had before. It's not suggesting we're gonna go down every trail, but I would suggest that you shouldn't, you and Jeremy shouldn't be afraid to explore that until it doesn't actually make sense. And obviously with the CAOs, but, those are the kind of things I think we would be looking at if we're gonna have a joint service, and how joint do we make it, or, you know, how distinct we have to keep them functioning properly as well, so. Second comment was simply, a thank you to the Brownsville, crew for the work they did the other night on, trying to, remove corn stalks from, drainage. The pictures and videos of the truck out in the middle of the water, is, actually kind of interesting, and, appreciated the fact that that was an emergency, and they responded to it, and, exactly as they should, and, talked to a couple people in Brownsville, it was Friday morning, who were very appreciative as well, so if you pass that on, and thanks for their service. We appreciate it. Kind of a unique one, hopefully it doesn't happen again, but it probably will, so. So anything further on this report? Seeing none, we need a motion then to receive this information, I think it is, knowing that it's looking back at budget time. We moved by Closter, were you moving it, seconded by Gillis? Resolved, Councilor Chief Report, FD 2026-004, 2026 Master Fire Plan Recommendation, Priority Matrix and Implementation Work Information. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Move down to TR 11. And Brooke, anything you want to add to this?
No, I have nothing more to add unless there's any questions.
Any questions on this? Councillor Yvonne?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just notice what I think is a clerical error in the background. Township Council passed bylaw 49-2026 on June 18th, 2024.
Just noticed that it's on too. It's a 2024, not 2026.
Good. Anything else? Councillor Frederick?
Just a point of interest, I wondered what do you mean by the London rate? Is it
Construction rate?
London, Ontario rate?
Goes by area as opposed to using Toronto.
So they kind of are standing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else on this report? Seeing none, there are motion and to receive the information. Moved by Butner, seconded by Way. Result, Council Township South Supreme Court TR 11-2026. Township Development Charges Annual Adjustment as information. Any further discussion? None, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. CO 33. Let's have your hand.
Purpose of this report is to provide council with an update on the Centerville Dam following recent discussions that staff have had with UCRCA. As you'll recall, council previously expressed support for pursuing the removal of the dam and naturalization of the site as the preferred long-term solution. Since that time, there have been some changes to the cost estimates for both the environmental assessment and the Gabion Basket project, and the Conservation Authority has provided an update on the status of the provincial funding. Unfortunately, this year, the environmental assessment was not approved for funding. So, and this is through the province's water and erosion control infrastructure program. In addition, they've estimated that the environmental assessment cost will increase slightly based on recent experiences that they've had with comparable projects, and the Gabion Basket project has also increased as a result of the construction delays and a new regulatory requirement, which is the need to complete a conservation plan before the work starts. These changes have resulted in an additional levy in 2026 of approximately $18,350 above what was included in the township's 2026 budget. So despite these changes, we are still continuing to recommend to proceed with the environmental assessment with a reduced project scope to align with the available funding that we do have in 2026. Starting this project is the next step in advancing the work and is the preferred long-term solution. We also do understand that the UTRCA is continuing to hear from members within the community that are concerned about the deteriorating condition of the site, and they would like to see some progress made towards a long-term solution. So today, the recommendation before council is to authorize the additional funding required to pay the 2026 UTRCA invoice with the additional amount to be paid from the township's working capital reserve, and to provide direction to staff to advise UTRCA that we would like to continue to proceed with a reduced scope phase 1 of the environmental assessment, while continuing to pursue any external funding opportunities that come forward next year. We can apply each year for funding and see if we are successful. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Good. Do you have any questions from council on this? Councillor Yvonne.
So in that application for funding, Julie, are you utilizing BDO for that as well?
No, UTRCA is preparing and submitting those applications on.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Webb.
Yeah, this is kind of disheartening, really, because back in February of 2025, when they said that they needed to do some work to the dam, and at that time, it was supposed to be completed by the end of March. And I didn't know, so I talked to Chris Tasker about that, and I assumed that this was all going forward. And then to find out that the funding wasn't there, that they needed to apply for more funding. So back in the end of this year, I guess it was, last year, 2025, they knew that the baskets were, nothing was done at the dam, and I was not aware of that. I was under the understanding that this work was to be completed by the end of March of 2025, and nothing was done because the shortage of Gabion baskets in the province of Ontario was one of the reasons that they couldn't get baskets. So fast forward, Chris, I had the discussion with Chris about this. And I said to it would have been nice to know that the baskets weren't being put in because of lack of getting them. And that just seems to have been slapped all of a sudden that nothing was said. I knew nothing about the work not being done. I thought it was to be done. And then he said, oh no, it wasn't done because they couldn't get the funding couldn't get the baskets. So that's why there's an increase. And it would have been nice to know this last fall when they knew about it, so we could have prepared for our budget. So I was a little miffed at all this. And then when they did get some money come in, it was even a higher number than what was originally asked for. So, I mean, there was some lack of communication on Upper Thames about this. I mean, it's something that's got to be done. I did go down to the dam here back in the spring, or back in the summer. I mean, there's not a lot of water going over that dam. There's very little, but this is going to be probably start to finish well into 10-12 year project. So I think we need to be somewhat proactive and do some work to hope that the dam doesn't collapse, but there is very little water going over that dam right now. It's the dam itself is only probably 8 to 10 inches of water. It's all full of silt. But it is what it is. It's gonna be a long process. I look at the Emerald Dam. It has gone pushing 10 years. And they still are nowhere near completion with that, so I don't expect this to be done within 15 years. DFO gets involved and it just changes stuff. It's a slow process, so. Wasn't happy with the numbers that came out. But it's what it is, so.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Gill.
Well, through your Mr. Mayor, like, it's disappointing, obviously, to see this increased fees, knowing that they needed these baskets over a year ago, the work wasn't completed. So like, what is gonna happen here in the short term, or like, do they have the baskets, are they starting to work, or they still need another plan or something done before they can even physically do work there?
But
I'll have to connect with them and find out what their updated timings. My understanding is the delay was the baskets, but also we need to do this conservation plan. I guess I kind of assume they're working on that, but I'll follow up with them.
As far as
It
you
is,
know,
it is disappointing, absolutely. It was supposed to be completed last year and we understood that it was like time was of the essence, like it needed to be done quickly, but now we're a year later.
as far as I know, the baskets, they do have baskets now, but. Next thing to be, when can you get them installed, because there's any little fish floats over that dam and gets down in there, well, that just puts a whole new. Wrangle on the whole. It doesn't have to be a big fish, they can do something like that, and they see one that. Got over, oh, that means that there's fish there, so we can't be working on the water, so it's gonna be a long process. But there's not a lot of water going over that dam. It's just one little narrow stream shown through the whole pond. And you can, if you look around as close as you can, there is fish in that pond, like little wee ones. Like whether they ever get the chance to grow into big, my guess is not likely because there's no depth in the water.
No.
They probably suffocate, right? Because of especially if you get a hot summer like days like today and tomorrow, when you get 40-degree temperatures, that water's gonna warm up and that's not gonna be good for the fish, but anyways, it's gonna be a long drawn out process, I do know that.
any other questions or comments? So, from my perspective, there's a good news, bad news story. Good news is, I understand that the new regional conservation authority, all problem, so. It is a bad news, in that, as you said, if there's a danger to the public a year ago, with no improvements, I'm guessing there's a danger to the public, today with no improvements. And we need to get at that. The one thing I've always wondered is, I believe there's just one more board on top of that dam.
I believe that when I was there a couple months ago, I stopped in one day, I think there's only one board there.
And I'm wondering why it's there. No, it's all you're holding back is a little bit of water by one, it looks like a blade or.
Yeah, it's like that, yeah.
Wondering why they can't take it out, at least take that water off. The other is, isn't there a plug or something in the bottom of the dam to let the water drain out at the bottom? Why wouldn't you just drain the thing right now and take the water weight out of the soil behind it? Which would, in my mind, reduce the threat of the potential flooding or letting go of the dam. The dry dirt is not probably going to create much pressure on the whole dam itself. It's the weight of the water and the fact that the all of a sudden soil can actually move as soon as it's got water in it.
They probably can't drain it because there is fish life there. And that's when that's when the DFO gets involved. If they see a fish, they can be a fish like half-inch long. That tells them that there's fish habitat, so they can't completely drain it. But the fish aren't gonna survive anyways. Well, no one fishes there because there's no fish to pull out.
So anyways, I just think that that's something that we should be pushing the conservation authority to say, if in fact we're worried about the potential collapse of the dam, then why don't we take as many of the risk factors out, which to me would be how much water can I get out of there? So that the dam's not got that much weight, push it sideways, not down.
Mhm.
Anyways, I'll leave that to you, Julie and Chris Tasker to resolve it. Any other questions or comments on that? Being none, the recommendation is in front of us to proceed with a somewhat reduced environmental assessment process. And assuming that they're gonna be applying to Rocky for next year as well. That's it. We have a motion on here, or a mover on this one? Moved by Way, second by Bismarck. Vote, Council Silver Fountain, for CDA 33, 2026, Centerville Dam. Project update and additional funding request as commission for the council operates additional funding required for the Centerville Dam environmental assessment and deviant battery project in the amount of $18,350 to be funded from the township for the capital reserve account. And further, the council direct staff will advise the Pembroke River Conservation Authority of the township wishing to proceed with phase one of the Centerville Dam environmental assessment, notwithstanding the absence of water and erosion control infrastructure funding. Any discussion? Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next one, proposed vacation update. Julie, another one.
Yep, thank you, Mayor, and through you to council. The purpose of this report is to present council with a proposed update to the township's vacation policy. I note that this policy has not undergone a comprehensive review since 2015. As part of the township's 2026 compensation review, Warden Aftergrove completed a review of vacation entitlements as well and compared them with 10 similar municipalities to assess whether our practices remain competitive. Overall, Warden Aftergrove concluded that the township's vacation program is generally aligned with comparable municipalities. Their primary recommendation was to adjust the timing of our vacation progression so that employees reach higher vacation entitlement levels earlier in their careers, which is more consistent with current municipal practices and is also intended to support employee attraction and retention. I know that the recommendation does not increase the township's maximum vacation entitlement. Employees will still be eligible for a maximum of 6 weeks of vacation. The proposed changes simply adjust when those milestones are reached. In addition to implementing the consultant's recommendation, we have taken the opportunity to review the entire policy as a whole, just to better reflect current administrative practices, clarify some of the provisions and ensure consistency with current employment standards legislation. The senior management team has reviewed the proposed policy and supports the revisions. We are recommending that council approve the updated policy, which is attached as appendix A to the report, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
So questions from council on this report? Councilor Claus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question around, so an employee can apply or request through yourself, to carry vacation over, is that correct? Like,
That's correct.
is there a maximum then as to how many weeks they're allowed to accumulate in terms of carryover?
So I haven't put a maximum in here. Our last policy did actually allow an entire year's worth of vacation to be carried over into a new year. We would try to avoid that. Typically, we do encourage staff to use vacation in the year that it's accumulated. I know that in some instances, vacation of about a week or so has been carried over with an understanding that it's used for the following year. That's currently what our past practice has been.
Other questions? Councilor Becker, thank you.
I personally find this very generous. It's just me, I don't want to. I've been out of the loop for a long time, like what's available out there. And of course, we don't have access to a report. Warden Aftergrove have done for us. So I have questions like, how does this stack up against other municipalities? How does this stack up against the county? I don't know. But, I'm just not ready to jump into this, just because Warden Aftergrove says we should. I'd like more information. I think it's very generous. It's just my opinion. The rest of council here can speak up as well. I think it's too generous.
Councilor Brookner,
I kind of agree with Councilor Pickard. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, yeah, it's very generous. And how many extra manpower do we have to hire and pay to cover all those weeks where everybody's gone? When does the work get done? Just like I imagine it stacks up with a lot of the other government institutions, but it's just seems pretty lucrative.
Councilor, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was my general reaction as well. Obviously, I've never worked in the public service, so I don't know how this stacks up. And I know that we have good people in most, or if not all, in positions. So you want to be competitive, so we don't lose the people that we have, and be able to attract good talent when we need them. At the same time, I know what happens in wherever, and if no one's close to this, so it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit in reading this report.
Other comments? Councilor Bill.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I similarly had kind of some concerns when I first read it, but then after talking to some people and doing some research, it seems to be the more common amounts these days, different service levels. I really don't have as concerns with your senior department. Obviously, I think rewarding people that have been here for a long time should be a part of the plan and being able to help for retention. My thing would be maybe on the junior end, maybe pull that back a little bit further. That would be my thought, but I'm not totally.
Or
Through you, Mayor, so with respect to vacation entitlements to start, so I'm happy to share the report that Warden Upton provided. In addition to the salary review, they did do a comparison of a review of our short-term disability leave. We do like an annual gift to staff for Christmas, so they took a look at that as well, and also our vacation entitlements. So I'm happy to share that with council, and I will do that. Starting vacation, we find that it's quite common practice to start at 3 weeks now versus 2 weeks. The report shows that 50% of municipalities start at 3 weeks versus 2 weeks. But I'm happy to provide more information to council on that. If you consider this today.
the other comments? None. I guess I tend to share the idea of the looks generous, but I would agree with Councilor Billis that the idea you actually want people and kind of anybody we're talking about, but you actually want people to take time off so they get recharged and all that, so that they're more efficient and feel better about getting back to work and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure what the right number is. I'd probably suggest we defer a decision on this. So council can see what other municipalities. I'm particularly interested in what is the municipalities county offering. And those like the other 7, because they're gonna be our closest competitors. And we wanna make sure you're doing it well. But I'm not sure who board enough to use their basic. Sort of thing. I wondered about, and I agree, I think there's an expectation that it's, you may have started at 2 weeks, but that was the day one start. And after a year, people with an expectation that they're gonna get at least, probably 3 weeks. So I was less concerned about that one. But I agree, it costs money to have people on holidays. Now, if we can get them to work, Saturdays and Sundays during the year, and then have the weekend or have an extra day off at some point, but so far I haven't found anybody that wants to, so.
I would just note at this point, Mr. Mayor, that also Warden Upgrove made recommendations as to compensation for council members as well, and we opted not to follow the full extent of that recommendation as well. And so we have led by example in this department, and I think we need to take another look at this.
So having said that, are you proposing a motion to refer pending, a review of the, council saying, board not to go and further consideration, like your motion. So moved, seconded by Pickard. So, motion would be, result, council of Township of Silver Doctrine Student Report, CEO 34/2026, proposed updated vacation policies and information. And that further, this would, recommendation be defer, any action, that would be the proper, right, okay. So receive this information and then defer a decision, pending a review of the board map growth report. Okay. Is that the motion, Councilor Kirby?
Councilor, I just had a comment. I'd like to know more about local.
More local?
Local, what are the other 7 municipalities?
That's,
That's what I'm interested in.
and then he says,
Through the mayor and council, I actually included that in the motion, so
Okay.
it's just that being included.
no, you're just reading their minds. So good for you. Get better all the time. Any further discussion on this? Basically, just sort until we get the word on the report and, compare with the other municipalities. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. CO 35. Please.
Mayor, you to council. So the purpose of this report is to bring council up to date on where we're at with the new municipal office, library and childcare facility in Mount Elgin, to provide an update on the work that has been completed over the last several months. The funding opportunities that we're currently exploring, as well as the preliminary financing strategy for discussion purposes. At this time, and through this report, we're looking for comments, questions, and further directions from council as we continue to move forward with this project. Since council last received an update, we have finalized conceptual site plan for layouts in collaboration with Sierra General Contracting, the design team, the senior management team, as well as Oxford County Library and Oxford Community Childcare as the preferred childcare operator. The report also includes an updated order of magnitude cost estimate from Sierra, which establishes a conservative planning budget of approximately 13.2 million, which includes a 10% contingency. It is important to emphasize that this is a preliminary estimate. We will continue to work closely with the design team and Sierra to refine the design, to validate costs and identify opportunities for value engineering while maintaining our objectives of constructing an energy efficient, sustainable building with an enhanced building envelope. The report outlines the funding opportunities that we're currently pursuing. We continue to work with BDO Canada and also FADI on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund application. And we've also prepared applications under both streams of the Build Community Strong Fund, so the direct stream as well as the local impact stream. The local impact stream has a potential to provide funding up to $1 million. The direct stream has potential to provide funding up to 40% of total eligible project costs. Collectively, these funding opportunities have the potential to significantly reduce the township's long-term financing requirements if we're successful. Since the writing of this report, I have confirmed a couple of items that I want to share with council. So through discussions with Walter Fady and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, we have confirmed that the building would need to be fully electric in order to qualify for funding under the Green Municipal Fund. However, Sierra's preliminary recommendation is to proceed with a traditional electric and natural gas hybrid system because of the additional capital costs up front and backup power requirements and uncertainty regarding long-term operating considerations associated with the fully electric building. We are continuing to explore whether a fully electric design remains a practical option for this project, recognizing that it may increase upfront project costs. At the same time, we're also pursuing some of these other funding opportunities that I mentioned through the Build Community Strong Fund, which do not have the same requirements for the building to be fully electric. It is kind of my thought that we could see what the outcome is of our funding applications under the Building Community Strong Fund, and then make a decision from there whether we're going to continue to pursue the fully electric option or not. I also want to note that this current estimate assumes an enhanced building envelope, including triple pane windows throughout the facility. Through recent discussions that I had with Philip and Patrick from Walter Fady just yesterday, as well as Dave and Jeff from Sierra, we have noted that there may be an opportunity to revisit some of these assumptions, like the triple pane windows. For example, we could explore whether there's an alternative window glazing system or glazing treatments that could achieve comparable energy performance at a lower cost. If those alternatives prove successful, they may help to offset the additional costs associated with designing the building as fully electric, including the increased electrical infrastructure and a larger backup generator that would be required to support the facility. So we are continuing to work with the design team to evaluate these options. And also Walter Fady to do some additional energy modeling on some of these different options as well. So far, the work that we've done with Walter Fady, we have not had any costs to the municipality because we've been able to secure funding for that work. But there may be additional work required, which the township would need to pay some additional costs. There is the potential to also recover some of those costs if we're successful through the FCM funding. So we're still looking at that. In this report, you'll see it also includes a very preliminary financing strategy. So I want to note that this is intended to reflect a worst case planning scenario should the township not be successful in securing any external funding for the project. And it's intended to help council understand the potential long-term financial implications of this project. And we are continuing to refine both the project budget and financing strategy as funding decisions are received and the design continues to progress. So at this point, I am happy to answer any questions that council may have, and we welcome any comments or direction that you may have at this time as we move forward.
Okay, so questions or comments from council? Councilor,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I understood correctly in previous reports, part of the attraction to a fully electric building was going to be the fact that we could put a solar array on top of the building that would help to offset a good portion of the cost of running the facility. But I note in this report that that solar array is not even included in the 13.2 million cost estimate. So do we have a cost projection on that system?
So through you, Mayor, our thought is that that would likely be accommodated through the contingency that's provided at this time, but we don't actually have the estimate from Sierra for the solar panels yet. But that is the intention, that solar panels would be included in the total project costs. They're just continuing to work with our gen on getting the price for the size of the system that we've required and the cost. I received the order of magnitude cost about 2 weeks ago, and that's a number we just didn't have right yet.
other questions? Councilor Becker?
I'm a little perplexed, I guess. We had that report from Walter Fady, which the Energy Committee looked at briefly. Waiting for some costing, I guess, before we proceeded with an opinion of it. The Walter Fady report recommended a moderately enhanced design. That included all electric, heat pump for hot water, a building automation system. Improved building envelope, including enhanced wall and roof insulation. High efficiency lighting systems. Smart indoor air quality system. Rooftop solar and standard glazing for windows. Now, in this $12 million, how much of these items are included in that figure? If that,
Through you, Mayor, all of those are included in addition to triple pane windows.
okay,
Because when the report went to the Energy Committee, the moderately enhanced design actually didn't have the triple pane windows or the enhanced roof. So this estimate includes an entirely enhanced building envelope, including triple pane windows, which was part of the majorly enhanced design in the report. So that's included in there. However, what is not included in there is the fully electric option. So if we go fully electric, we do need a larger generator, which, well, this is what been advised by Sierra, a larger generator, which is expected to cost approximately $750,000. And approximately $300,000 in additional mechanical systems. So we'd be looking at about another $1 million to go fully electric, however, as I mentioned. Yesterday when I had a conversation with Patrick and Philip from Walter Fady. There may be opportunities to remove the triple pane windows from the original cost estimate and instead look at window glazing treatments to provide the same energy efficiency. Which may help offset that additional cost to go fully electric. Because the triple pane windows are quite a substantial cost, as I understand.
Perfect.
What was Walter Fetty's opinion, a comment about the $750,000 generator? Because I don't think that's is in their report. They didn't suggest that, Sierra did. So I see a conflict there. Doesn't matter who you talk to, who do you wanna believe? Because Walter Fetty pushed pretty hard. About fully electric.
And to you, Mayor, part of that was the feasibility study. We asked them to prepare an option that would qualify us for the FCM funding for under the sustainable municipal buildings. The generator, my understanding, was not included as part of that assessment. So we would like to continue to work with them to take some of the recommendations that Sierra has and some of the costing that Sierra has and do a further analysis now. When we retained Walter Fady, we didn't have anything to kind of guide us on how we were gonna build this building, what the features were gonna be. And now that we have Sierra working with us, they're making recommendations on how to actually construct the building. And their thoughts are that what was recommended in Walter Fady's original report is a significantly higher cost than other ways that they could build at a lower, more cost effective solution. So we've connected the two of them because we'd like them to continue to explore that and do some remodeling and cost benefit analysis.
Okay, Councilor, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 different points that I have. So just for my own clarification then, Julie, in the original report from Walter Fady, we were talking about 3 potential levels of construction on this building, base model, moderately enhanced, and then fully enhanced. So now what we're talking about in this report is the moderately enhanced building envelope with a few elements of the advanced enhanced envelope. That's kind of what we're talking about. Okay, second point, the costing on the generator, granted that it's probably not very fine tuned just yet. But is that the total cost, estimated cost of the generator, or is that the additional cost because of the fully electric option for the building?
That's the total cost.
That's the total cost.
The electric bill.
So even though I'm not a huge fan of the fully electric option, to be fair, we're going to incur a big proportion of that cost anyway, because we need a generator regardless what system we have in there. Okay. We have the 3rd point was, but it'll come back to me.
Other comments? Councilor Joe.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Conveniently, I was at an open house on Saturday at an electric building, that Earth had, previously, was last weekend. Looking through that building we built, that was, basically fully electric. I did find out that their generator is a diesel powered generator. So that was the way they got away with not having natural gas. The site was generated with diesel power. How they segregate that as not being a fully electric building and having the generator be diesel, I have no idea, because you'd have to ask them. That wasn't really a question that came up. And I guess the demands for that building might be different than what we would have for this building. That'd be something to look into. Obviously. And I thought there were a lot of things with that building we should look into, obviously, with the way they went about it, moving forward with electric for the building. That they would help us say where the pros and cons and challenges of a building of that would be. Obviously, this is different being municipal versus, you know, private company grant. I do have some concern with those costs within that, but it comes down to what makes the most sense at the end of the day. I think some more research or cost fitting models like Presidio suggests that need to happen before we kind of get too lost in the weeds.
Other,
Third point just came back to me, Mr. Mayor. At what point is this council not going to be able to authorize any further expenditures on this project until the new council is elected?
This is included within the budget as a debenture, so it is something that this council to make to move forward.
so theoretically, you could, agree to build, right up till the end of this term, November 14th, we have a meeting that day. So, not suggesting that we want to put one way or the other. I would rather take my time and do it properly than try and rush it through, so that would be the other thing. Any other questions or comments, Councillor Ian, or sorry, Councillor Perry?
I just, I like the way you think, that you've done a good job of sorting this out so far. One of the comments I would make was that you suggested financing. And you said the Sweetburg Road venture would be up. And the monies that were contributed to that every year go towards the venture for the building. I don't think that's being fair to that. Because that venture come out of this version.
Well,
Normally, public, their money. Their money paid the venture, so it came out of this version.
That's right. You're saying it came out of the roads budget. I would suggest there is one budget. And you get your portion, somebody else gets their portion.
Yeah, I know.
But, when you're actually paying the debt, it's paid by all taxpayers all the time. So I understand where you're coming from.
I don't think we did
Eventually,
run out
slightly.
the road to venture, that's the way.
Yep.
Roads got their money back. Future budget, once the venture was paid off, they could use that again.
Mhm. Yeah,
Just limits what road supervisor can do down the road.
But they're not sure the taxpayers actually care, they care about tax dollars. Out the door, but anyway.
Tax the building, not roads.
Okay. Staff looking for, opportunities to not increase the taxes, so. Any other questions or comments? So one of the things that kind of surprised me in this is the cost of the larger generator. And, you're thinking about, need to have, want to have, must have. How often is this generator operated last year? That's right, if we don't have. Because virtually, anyways, I'm not suggesting we don't have a generator. But I'm suggesting that if you needed a generator to operate the full facility, this new facility. Under what condition would you need it? What then happened? That you had to keep that building open. Fully operational. And. Sort of go, well. Some kind of major storm or, a loss of power from, hydro one or whatever. And. Part of me says, it seems to me that if it were my building. But frankly, it's parking, right? I'd be saying, what do I need just to keep enough heat in the building, the lights on? Because if we've had that kind of catastrophic event. I'm guessing lots of people are staying home. And you probably, if you've had some kind of tornado or hurricane or whatever it is. Probably, you would be closing child care center and the library, indefinitely, like, you know, for a period of time. So part of me says, I'm not sure that I would be as worried about fully operational generator as it would be saying, taking a generator like we have here and saying, you know, you gotta keep just enough heat on, and if it's a smart building, you'd only keep the rooms that have water in them. And, just enough heat on to keep it from freezing. And that may not be a problem at all, because the storm may be so. Anyways, the idea of having a generator large enough to operate the building fully, to me, going forward doesn't make sense. Generator we've got here, because we have gas heat, operates this building just fine. But I'm not sure that we actually need to do that, but so that part sort of bothers me. As far as fully electric or not, I was gonna go fully electric. I think 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we're gonna be saying, why didn't you do it? Or somebody keeps saying, I don't think so. So I think the need to demonstrate leadership in a fully electric world, which we're all transitioning to. Even the province is saying, we gotta build more nukes because we gotta get more power. And it isn't for population increase, it's for the transition. So I recognize, yeah, we might get a couple of years ahead. We're not that far ahead, so that would be my position on it, but I agree, realize everybody will agree. Any other questions or comments? Staff or, people, sorry, Councilor, go ahead.
To your most recent comments, Mr. Mayor, I would challenge the idea that we need to go fully electric as a means of showing leadership in the community. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think part of leadership is doing appropriate and proper fiscal management, and I think a combination building to me makes a lot more sense that way. It reduces our reliability on just one system in order to maintain that building. To your comment about the generator, I'll just reference my own experience at home. We installed our standby generator system when we were under a different livestock type and had much heavier draws on in terms of feed milling equipment, that sort of thing. Having transitioned over into poultry now, we have a much less demand on the farm, but having the extra capacity on the generator is certainly not something I regret at this point. So depending on the costing on a generator, I still would support being able to keep that building fully operational. Even in times of emergency.
No question to say. We're not here actually to agree. We're here to bring forward thoughts and ideas. Our vision on leadership and where the world is going is different. That's fine with me. 50 years from now, neither one of us will be here, and somebody will say who was right and wrong. So, or they'll guess that. Any further discussion on this? I think the request from staff basically is. This is an update. We want to keep proceeding this direction. Is that okay with council? And is that a fair synopsis? Go ahead, Drew.
And I do anticipate, I think that we do want to continue to explore some of the energy modeling with Walter Fady and Sierra. Now that they're connected and talking more detail about how the building can be built. So I do anticipate that there will be some additional costs with that, which I will bring back to council likely.
So I would just caution that this is township's building, not Sierra's or Walter Fady. So we need to be very much in the driver's seat, regardless of. But respect and appreciate their expertise. But also say that we have to do what we think is right for the community in the future. So I encourage you that. I'd also be, do we have any sense of timeline when we might hear from FCM for funding or that there was a loan program and all that? Any sense when that will happen?
We won't hear until closer to the end of this year, maybe early next year, because we're still in the pre-application phase. And so, sorry, as a bit of a further update, they are looking for more information on our climate risk assessment. So Walter Fady is working with us on that. They did do like a very high level climate risk assessment for our pre-application, but they want more information. So they're working on that with us. So we need to get that in first, and then we know if we can proceed to the full application.
So I think that, again, to me makes quite a difference if there's significant funding available or a significant lower loan program available. Makes quite a difference whether one is more advantageous than the other. So, Councilor,
2 points, Mr. Mayor. First, Julie, can you just run quickly through what funding application we're looking at here again? Because the FCM is separate from the federal provincial government grants that we're looking at, right?
That's correct. So there's the Build Community Strong Fund. There's two streams there. The local impact stream and the direct delivery stream. So we're submitting an application for both of those. The local impact stream I submitted last week on my own. We did not use BDO for that one. BDO is working with us on a direct delivery stream, which is potential 40% funding, but total eligible cost. That one actually needs to be in by tomorrow. So we're finalizing that one later today. It's mostly done.
okay. Sorry, Councilor.
So 40% of eligible costs, but that doesn't necessarily include the entire building.
The only thing it doesn't include is furnishings. So
Okay.
it's the total eligible project costs are just a little under 12. Or sorry, no, they're just a little under 13.
So that would all potentially qualify for that stream.
Correct.
Okay, and then the FCM fund is,
And that's a separate one, and that one is potentially up to 1.5 million in grant. And then potentially up to 10 million in low cost borrowing, and I believe the borrowing percentage is around 2.5%. But I do believe it changes a bit, so don't quote me on that, but it is lower than what we're looking at through.
okay, thank you. Just a comment too, I noticed on page 8, you got the, I guess it's an AI rendering of the potential, the way the building would look. I noticed that the council chambers has been squared off instead of rounded as in previous drawings.
Yes, and that was a cost saving suggestion. Because it was quite a significant cost to do the rounded building. We did also think that logistically the layout of the space is better squared off.
I just want to make a comment, I think it's a very good looking building. I like what I see there. Those types of changes, ultimately, is that all going to come back to council to be approved at some point or another? Or those types like squaring up versus rounding off, are those kinds of things going to be handled by staff going forward?
Between staff and Sierra ideally, however, at this point, if there are any things that you see, any potential changes, we need that. We're getting to the point where any further changes is going to cost more in terms of design. So if there are things that you're seeing in these concept plans where we're at now, we need to know right away.
Well, to that point, then I did notice that in the drawings you're containing the generator completely within the building envelope. Is that correct?
No, the generator. I don't have the site plan on here. There's actually a pad in the parking lot for the generator.
I just noticed that there's generator room designated within the lower level of the building.
All the mechanicals, like all of them.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Gills.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just comment on that exterior, Julie, after our conversation this morning about the zoning and whatnot. Picturing where the parking lots and whatnot are gonna be, I just wondered why or thought I had was why the entrance would be at the farthest corner away from those other parking lots compared to the other corner on the west home. Not that it's a make or break thing, but I just thought, obviously, you're walking further. I don't think it's end of the world thing, but I just kind of thought, it's like, well, most of your parking is behind or side parking lot, whether that should be something that instead of walking all the way across the building, would be at the other corner. Just something I noticed.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, our conversations to this point have been, our thought is that primarily the parking lot to the north would be used for the public coming and going from the library and the municipal office. And then the parking lot to the south would primarily be used for the daycare. And then the staff parking lot would primarily be the parking lot to the west. And there is an entrance, so there will actually be a barrier-free path of travel from that parking lot on the west to, see if I can, there's an entrance on that west side. So you go in and up the stairs. I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, so on the west side of the building, there is another entrance there. That's not can come right into the building.
Councillor Yedlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Julie, the one thing I've never been really clear on is the main entrance that you show on the northeast corner of the building. Right, when folks walk in, is there gonna be a reception desk there, or is that just going to be kind of an empty hallway with a set of elevators?
So we've had some conversation about this as well to try to improve flow as much as we can. There will not be a reception desk there. So when people walk in, again, for flow, they would come in, the elevator would be right there, but the staircase is also going to be open. So similar to when you walk into the town of Ingersoll office, you walk into the lobby, there's an elevator there, and also the stairs are right there. So people can come in and they have those two options to go right up to the main lobby area for the municipal office. And then there is a reception counter in there for the library on the days that the library is open. But we kind of have played around with the lobby a lot to try to make the flows and this is not.
So do I understand correctly then that there's no ceiling between that entrance lobby and the upper level of the building then? So it's all one common airspace?
It's about a story and a half. It's
Great.
not a full 2 stories, but it would be,
But visually it will be open from the floor that you walk in on to where the reception desk would be.
no. It is, it's enclosed. About half, kind of. You can't look down from the municipal office lobby into the main lobby. So this is. Once you go up the stairs about halfway, it's all enclosed at that point.
I wonder about the mental impact of that for folks walking in, whether it's gonna be, kind of an awkward space to walk into when there's nobody there to greet you or no visible connection to the municipal offices that you're going to, I don't know.
So this is, in my mind, this is very similar to the entrance at Ingersoll.
Yes.
Walk in, library there, elevator there, stairs there, clearly upstairs to office. I think it's a relatively welcoming space. This is maybe smaller, but I think it's a relatively welcoming space. And I know what you mean, but I think if, I don't know how often you've been into the library there in Ingersoll, if you went and look at it, you sort of say, yeah, I know where to go. Like it's pretty clear, I think. So and when I saw this, that's what I thought of. I thought it's just like Ingersoll, but very similar to the model that Ingersoll used. And it's proved to be fairly effective, right? So, but anyway, any other questions or comments? So the one comment I would make was, thank you for removing the rounded, personal chambers. I hate rounded packets, I just don't like them. I like this one a lot better. That's, but I'm not gonna be there. I don't care. But I just, anyway, any other, questions or comments on this? The intention then is for, clearly for staff to proceed and, the CEO to kind of update us as we move along. Okay, Councilor Yedlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So looking at the funding analysis and the worst case scenario, we should be able to swallow this with only about a 1.5% tax increase if we had to fund the whole thing ourselves.
Through you, Mayor, I think we'll have some further discussions internally just about I guess when Brooke and I were looking at the debt repayment, we were looking at it like from a debt repayment perspective. Not necessarily which department it's coming from, so we'll take a look at that. Like I said, I hope that we have some more information on if we're successful in any of the funding by the end of August. And also, as we continue with the design, we hope that we can bring that current order of magnitude cost down.
Recognizing that we haven't looked at any of the parking lot paving, landscaping, any of that sort of thing yet either.
That's included,
Is it?
yes.
Okay.
No, included in this or included in the board's budget. Where we're gonna take it from, Councilor Rickards, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'll
There
take
is
the staff,
landscape
so-
Deputation.
So, okay. Anything further on this? I don't want to cut it off because this is a fairly major item, but I think staff have a sense of the direction forward. You're okay? Okay. So receive his information. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Pickard, second by Council of Town Pacific, Dr. Zeke Portillo, 35-2026 municipal office library and childcare facility project update as information. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. All right, Durham Park, Durham Center Park. Maintenance, so Julie.
Thank you, Mayor, Community Council. So this report has been prepared in follow-up to previous discussion on this topic as a result of routine playground inspections at the Durham Center Park. Staff have identified concerns with the condition of the protective surfacing. We've looked into the issue and options available to address the concerns. We also took the opportunity to review the township's responsibility as the owner and occupier of the lands, current industry best practices and how neighboring municipalities are maintaining similar facilities. While the recommendation in this report relates specifically to Durham Center, we do hope that the information in this report will help guide the township's approach to playground maintenance across all of our parks moving forward. One of the key messages is that the engineered wood fiber is not simply landscaping or decorative mulch, but it is intended to act as a protective safety surface to reduce injuries from falls. Like all of our assets, it does require ongoing maintenance, periodic top-ups, and eventually more significant rehabilitation and replacement. We have looked at alternatives such as pea gravel, herbicides, and based on research and discussions with neighboring municipalities, we're not recommending these approaches at this time. For Durham Center, we are recommending a more comprehensive rehabilitation of the playground surfacing this year. We looked at replacing the surfacing with a poured-in-place rubber as well. However, given the cost estimate of approximately $119,000 and the fact that the playground equipment has an anticipated remaining lifespan of about 3 to 5 years, we don't think that this is a cost-effective solution at this time. We are looking for council's approval of the proposed rehabilitation of the playground surfacing at a total estimated cost of about just under $18,000. I know that that cost does include the border for around the playground, which is about $6,600. We are suggesting that the costs be shared under the township's existing capital cost sharing rate with the Center Fall Board. Where this township would pay 75% and the township would pay, the township would pay 75% and the Fall Board would pay 25%. And we are recommending that the township share be funded from the recreation reserve. The work is intended to help address the current ongoing health and safety concerns arising from routine inspections. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, questions, comments from council? Councilor,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since this directly affects the Durham Center Hall, where I'm a member, I guess I'll go first on this one. I'm not happy with this report. I find the amounts quoted for the replacement of the materials exorbitant. In the least, we're talking almost $20,000 for some mulch, and that just seems over the top for me. I know the Hall Board is not going to be happy with having to spend an extra $5,000. Granted, it's still the 75-25 split, but they're not going to be happy doing all their fundraising to mitigate weeds. And eventually, this is going to lead to losing volunteers. I'm fairly afraid of that. One point in the report, on page 2 of the report, one of the headers you have there is playground ground cover is protective servicing, not just landscaping. Further down in the report on page 4, you note that the province bans the cosmetic use of many pesticides, but you've gone out of your way earlier in the report to demonstrate that the wood fiber chips are not just landscaping. They are a safety measure. And so I would argue that, yes, we could use herbicides there because it's more than just trying to make the place look pretty. It's actually trying to enhance the safety of the product being put down. So I understand that over time, wood chips will deteriorate. And so maybe we have reached a point where we have to change the whole thing out. Obviously the rubber is not going to be feasible, but I would argue that this is just one playground. Mount Elgin's playground is in no better shape, if not worse. The weed problem there is just as bad. The playground equipment probably has less life left in it than that of Durham Center. So we have playground equipment there that really should be either mitigated or potentially roped off at some point in the near future due to deficiencies there. Right, and we're looking at a much bigger building because it's a bigger area than what Durham Center has. So I have some problems with this report. I have a lot of problems with the cost of it. But if we go ahead with it, then I would suggest that, yes, we should be looking at herbicides going forward in order to maintain the new fill that's put in. So that it doesn't become a weed bed within the next 3 to 5 years, because my suspicion is that if we go ahead with these measures this year, we're gonna be looking at the same problem in about 2 years' time.
Other comments? So. How does the promise to try and cause medic use? Herbicide, which is, I understand that. So that's part of this discussion. If it were home, I had to go around up and take care of the weeds in the playground. And nobody was saying that you're not going to be cut not abused, it might be illegal, but we're not at home. It's a public institution, so we need to apply by the public rules. I just don't know how clearly we find Councilor Claus here.
Yeah, so a couple of things, just thinking about the weed problem and when the weeds grow tall, not only does it look bad, but there's several articles now about noxious weeds that could be harmful to young kids. And secondly, the tick problem continues to evolve and they like to be on long roads and so on and so forth. So people get ticks walking just down parking or parkway, walkway. So I think you gotta think a little bit about that in terms of controlling the noxious weeds. And I'm interested too in terms of what's permissible. Is the concern with just broad-based spraying? There's other ways to apply the chemicals, or Roundup. You can use a weed wick application process, which cut down substantially on the amount of spray you would have to use. There's options like that. Just a few thoughts as well, because I agree with also that we're just going to continue to have a weed problem and other things with it.
Sure.
So from the research that I found, the ban does specifically say parks and schoolyards. There are some exceptions, but they are only for plants that are considered to be poisonous to the touch. And then there are also some exemptions to sports fields when national or international level competitions are being held. Those with respect to parks, those are the only exemptions that I found. I can certainly look into it more though, and we can maybe reach out to the ministry directly. To see if I can get some more information on we would be considered exempt in this situation.
Wondering if I'm the director of some international.
Any clients, do things like that, they were pretty good.
Are you suggesting you provide lessons to?
Yeah. And.
Well, I was thinking the ward council 2 and 3.
Praise the way to go if we can do it. It starts to look terrible. Something, cutting them down is always temporary, because you'll cut them again. That's what we did, we cut them, dug them out, cut them.
And do you think that this is a bit of a start to a broader discussion about like our long-term parks and maintenance, parks, operations and maintenance and how we handle it going forward? I share your concern that I do think this type of thing will have a negative impact on our volunteers. And, people wanting to continue to be involved when they're funding things that are, considered routine maintenance. Kind of thought a little bit about, I think that there would be some benefit in the township doing a Parks and Recreation master plan, maybe looking at that in the new year. And working on getting some, standard operating procedures on how we handle situations like this moving forward. I know that the information in this report is not what we want to hear. I know it's expensive. But we did look into what we believe are our options, current best practices of what we can maybe do.
So, go ahead, Councilor Carroll.
I noticed this is quite expensive, and I worry that this might be something that happens to other parks as well. In Beachville, I'm less concerned with Park at Louisville because it's, high and elevated. The park off the main road, kind of in a low spot there off the road. There is some drainage issues, and obviously, the mulch absorbs that moisture. And I know this year spreading all the mulch around, like, you can definitely tell that there's been a lot of mulch there over the years, let's just say. And, it's broken down underneath, and if it wasn't too hard when you're spreading stuff above that you're sinking in, you can find that soft stuff. So it's organic matter where stuff's gonna grow. I don't know whether the plan is to plan ahead for parks to peel that back, to be able to put down a barrier. What exactly the best plan is moving forward. I do know with our inspections that Daryl's going through raking and moving mulch around, that might help probably mitigate some needs. Probably immediately around some of the play centers, but maybe not necessarily the whole bed as a whole.
Other questions or comments? So, my understanding of the pesticide act in Ontario was basically, as Joey said, can't use them in parks anymore. That was, it's making it as simple as I possibly can, which, we've had discussion. Why I personally would go ahead and use them, if it was my part, obligated to follow Council Clause will be numbered. Starting this morning, they were obligated to follow the rules of the province and all that is that's the thing. So I as much as I want walk in there on a Monday night when nobody's around and just spray it with Roundup and then walk out and not tell anybody, I'm not sure that that's a good thing for us to do. So I know it's not good. So that, to me, the simplest and best solution has been taken away by our authorities, which is their jurisdiction. So I think we're stuck with, do we just keep putting wood chips on, or do we, and in which case, in this particular case, is that what we do? I'm not sure that that's actually solved the problem. So one of those more difficult, the simplest solution is the solution we can use. But so I think the question is, what do we want to do at the UC Park now? With the situation where simply that home. I think the so should be there. Russian,
I don't disagree. You want your places to look nice. It's just the cost of this thing is just, to me, unreal. And I'm not trying to discredit staff or the report that you made or anything like that. I get that you're limited in your options too. But I think part of our response here also needs to be to advocate to the province, maybe even through AMO, that this is a problem. And we need to be dealing with some of the legislation around it such that we're able to use other methods in these parks in order to maintain them. I don't think we just lay down and say, oh crap, this is what we have to deal with because this is the way the rules are written. No, let's try and get the rules changed.
So it was a motion to write Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And to advocate for consideration of cosmetic use of pesticides in playground areas. I mean, it used to be, you just had sand, kids fell off the playground, and had it on sand. And then I continue that, it had peak out, I mean, technically about 20, 30 years. And then all of a sudden, no, you can't use that, you gotta use, these engineered wood chips. Kids fall in the sand, I know it's right. After one or two broken bones, they quit falling. Do. Learn. So, and I think we are overprotecting children. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, to your comment about the right there, I think we do. I think we circulated through Able in order to try and get some support from adjoining municipalities. I think also I would hesitate to use the word cosmetic in there. I think this is a health and safety issue, and I think it can be addressed as such.
Fair enough. Start speeding this all down. What, so that's one part. What do you want to do about the DC park?
I haven't seen any commentary from the rest of the membership of the board on it yet. Other than that, I would say it's expensive. But I've not heard any commentary, so I'm not sure how supportive they're going to be of this.
So you're suggesting that this go to the DC park board and have them have a discussion on what do they want? That'd be a fair.
I hesitate to approve something that's going to spend 5,000 out of their budget without having heard from the rest of them first. So I guess I would move that we defer a decision on this until such time as we heard back from the Herb Center call board.
Julie, do you want to say?
Just through you, I noted in the report, my thought was that if council did approve this, it would still have to go to them for review, consideration and approval before moving forward. Not that we were just going to do it without their approval. And I do want to note we could remove the plastic playground border, which is $6,600, which would bring down the cost a bit. And then it would give some time for the hall board to look at what they want the long-term solution for the park to be, what kind of equipment they want to be there over the next few years. With 3 to 5 years, you may start to get some more of the creep, like from the weeds and surrounding area, but it's an option to bring it down a bit this year if they wanted to.
So do that from barrier or border, or you suggest that like this isn't just landscape edging?
No, it's it's like
fold install, it's about 6 inches wide or fold and spark.
Yeah, it's a plastic 6-inch plastic border that goes around the entire
Nail down. Or nail.
So
go ahead, sorry.
So this is gonna go to Durham Center Hall Board. And we're potentially gonna approve it here today and then send it on to them for discussion. What happens if they say no?
That's why I thought your motion was we defer. That was the recommendation from staff. Your motion was we defer, let them say yes or no first, and then bring it back. That was what I thought we were doing. Sorry. Okay, Councilor Gill, if you wanted to comment.
Just gonna comment whether we defer or approve in principle, depending on support from the whole board, but whatever the counselor of that board is.
Motion, the mover had suggested to defer. I was still working on that, waiting for a seconder, but I want to make sure you had the motion clear. That's your motion to defer. Your second, that Councilor Perkins?
Second. What would you? I think that was going. Tractor. So a little work being.
So the motion is moved and second to defer pending comment from the whole board. And the second part of the motion was to send a letter through or to AMO regarding use of herbicides in parks and all that staff work that properly. I was trying to get the intent of the motion. Yeah. Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So, Councillor Clauser, just so you know, I can't see your hand because of Denny's, okay, that's better. I like that. All right. Okay, we take a break for lunch. I'm assuming there's lunch today.
There is.
Okay, we'll take a break for lunch and come back, in what, 45 minutes?